myself, Greg, and Lurch. We got a lot to go through today, so we're going to kind of rush through it a little bit. This is going to be a busy kind of week, which is great because last week was kind of slow. But a lot's going on in the nerdosphere this week coming on. But just to remind everybody, GAME is the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo, which is one of the convention things that we do put on through Eclectic Endeavors, which is where we're from. I'm the director of cross promotions. Right below me is Greg. He is the director of tabletop gaming. And below him is Lurch, or Philip Landergan, who is our chairman this year, and in previous years has been the director of electronic gaming. He's getting ready to pass that torch on, but I don't think there's an official replacement yet. Anyway, we're going to get right into it after I do a quick sound check just to make sure we're sounding okay. So let's go to that. Check 1, 2. Oh, let's go to that.
Beep boop beep boop.
Check 1, 2. Oh, let's go to that.
Beep boop beep boop.
Yep, it's working fine. All right. Okay, we're going to jump right in with stuff. But remember, we're a nonprofit organization through the Springfield Regional Art Council. Everything we make for our Eclectic Endeavors is put towards the educational aspects of the nerd hobbies to try to promote that. Currently, that means if we make anything over and above what it takes, we're going to try to do some grants to after-school clubs in high schools and possibly colleges here in the future. But, of course, without an actual convention going on, a lot of that's on hold till COVID finishes rearing its ugly head. And my own channel is, of course, also dedicated to Extra Life, part of the Children's Miracle Network, helping kids often with hospital-bound illnesses or other severe things, cancer, muscular dystrophy, end-stage renal disease and things, helping them get by and working them to get special equipment, or if it takes something special to get them to come home with their families, they would help work that. And 100% of the money goes to your local chapters of Children's Miracle Network. So I chose the Cox Network here, so anything I make goes towards the Cox Network. So just keep that in mind. It's always good to give back to charity. Anyway, we're going to get started here real quick, and let me see what we've got on the first thing on the agenda here. Let's see. Let's jump right in with E3 stuff. Philip, that's the first thing I've got on my list.
Sure. All right. So E3, and there's actually just E3, but it is this weekend. Now it's starting off with what we're calling the E3 week. Really starts off tomorrow with the Summer Games Fest. It's deliberately timed, I think, along with E3. But what we have shared here, and I'm going to drop I don't know if I can drop it. Would you be able to drop the link? I think I'll get denied it. But can you drop the link in our chat?
Yeah, because I can do that.
This is a schedule for everything going on the next few days for video gaming stuff. So, most of your big game publishers and developers are going to be showing up with some kind of a presentation over the next several days. We can just look at this. I have this in brief for the full schedule for the next few days. Tomorrow, we got the Summer Games Fest kickoff live, and then so that's Thursday. Then Friday, there's the Coke Primetime, IGN Expo, Guerrilla Collective Part 2, Wholesome Direct, Ubisoft Forward, which is one of the ones I'm really looking forward to. I'm hoping to see some more Assassin's Creed stuff, but that's just me. I'm sure there's going to be Far Cry stuff, mostly. Devolver Digital. I'm getting into Saturday now. But yeah, we got the Devolver Digital, Gearbox Entertainment, Upload VR, Xbox, and then on Sunday we got Xbox and Bethesda doing their game showcase, which I think that's a lot of people's big. I'm just really looking forward to seeing what they're going to announce there because of Xbox buying out Bethesda. buying the company that owns Bethesda. There should be a lot of big news that day. And then Square Enix later that same day. And then also on the 13th, we got Warner Brothers Back for Blood presentation, which is like a spiritual successor to what was that? Left 4 Dead. We've got PC gaming show, future game show, and then on Monday we got Take-Two panel, which I'm hoping the Take-Two panel has some more Grand Theft Auto stuff going on, because Take-Two owns Rockstar North, all of Rockstar.
Right.
Then we got, later we got the limited run games, Capcom showcase. I'm curious what Capcom's got going on. I'm hoping we see some stuff that's not Resident Evil. I don't have a problem with them showing Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a good property. But I've been looking at what they've been putting out recently, and it feels like the only new stuff we've been getting from Capcom these days has been a lot of Resident Evil remakes and a couple of games, and then a Monster Hunter game. I'm hoping that this Capcom showcase shows some of their other properties getting some attention. I'd love to see a new Mega Man game. Love to see a new something to do with Capcom versus Marvel or something. I don't know.
Another fighting game, yeah.
Of what I would like to see. Something. Capcom needs it, I think. I think Capcom could really use an injection of one of their other properties that's not Resident Evil.
So an injection of variety. An injection of variety, yeah. I hear you.
And then and then we need, we got the Razer. I don't remember what the Razer E3 keynote is. But then Tuesday we got Nintendo Direct, which they say is planning on being mostly a software thing. I'm hoping that we're going to get some information about the other Nintendo Switch. And then also Bandai Namco that same day. So between tomorrow and the 15th, we got 6 days of tons of video gaming information coming out all at once.
Nice. And welcome to Indica, who's joined the chat channel and seems to be pretty excited about what you're talking about, which is pretty good. That looks like there's a whole slew of stuff to keep an eye on. I need
just a second, but keep going.
And just as a side note, too, for some of you who are looking for more content kind of like this, scheduled content, being broadcast, especially over the internet. GalaxyCon all month during the weekends has been doing some virtual signings and one-on-one question and answer things too. I went and sat in last weekend where I talked to the actress that played River Song, the actress that played what's her name? Jenna Coleman. Can't remember her character's name.
What are you thinking
of? From Doctor Who.
Oh.
Clara. The actress that played Clara, the actress that played River Song, and the actor that played Rory, who also happened to be Rip Hunter from Legends of Tomorrow. So they had a thing going on, and I think they just did Next Generation this last weekend. Star Trek Next Generation and a couple things. All month long you go in for the weekend and they've got different things going on too. So that's something to check out. And you can do virtual signing. You basically can pay for a product. Now it's not cheap, but they'll send you a signed product, or if you can send something in and they'll send it back signed. So that's another option for you.
Yeah. So whatever your interest, these next few days, there is going to be something for you. I'm going to be busy watching most of these.
Yeah, if I had the time, but I've got so much other things I've got to do. But yeah, there's a couple of these that I might want to actually find time for.
Video games are my bread and butter. Like for me, E3 is like the
that's your Christmas. I know.
It's like it's like my Christmas of information. Anyway, like right. I'm not usually getting stuff on that day, but I'm getting a lot of info to get excited about Christmas. Oftentimes,
right? Absolutely. I totally understand where you're coming from there. and so that's awesome.
Well, I
Uh,
second more Mega Man games. I'd watch the trailers just for the music.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Mega Man is classic.
For the last few years, it's been up to the indie crews to deliver on good classic 8 or 16-bit Mega Man-esque music.
Right. And there's
Yeah,
in
they got some
Japan, there's
killer
a
tunes.
well, and in Japan, there's a whole kind of cult following to just 8 and 16-bit music. You know,
Yeah.
they'll
I
listen
mean-
to it like a regular radio station, man.
Yeah. I mean, Capcom has confirmed stuff that will be at theirs. Like, if you scroll down, you can see Capcom has confirmed they're going to have the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Monster Hunter Rise, and Resident Evil Village. So,
Well, hey-
Monster Hunter and Resident Evil, which Resident Evil Village is, and
Village
Monster
is
Hunter
already
Rise
out,
are
isn't it?
already out. So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they are going to be really doing with those two games.
Now
But-
with 20% more Lady Dimitrescu, however her name's pronounced.
I'm told the U is silent.
That's what I've heard, but I can't quite get my tongue around it.
Yeah. So
Razer's doing their own thing because they're a hardware producer. That's what their keynote's about.
yeah,
It'll unveil a
Maybe-
series of innovative hardware built with Razer's best in-class technology and design that will continue to raise the bar for PC gaming.
so I guess some new
Right.
badass keyboards and mice.
And yeah, and other gaming, specifically gaming accessories, because that's what Razer specializes in.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're like the Alienware, but specifically for peripherals.
yeah, PC peripherals,
Yeah,
gaming peripherals.
so they're gonna
Yeah.
have like headgear and keyboards with all the tricked out lights and the joysticks and all that kind of stuff is what you're gonna find from Razer.
yeah,
Which is cool.
I've never owned any Razer products, but I used to sell some of the products when I was working at Geek Squad
Yeah, I've
long
never
ago
owned
because I was
I've
in the
never
best.
owned
I was in the
Razer
Best
either.
Buy store.
Yeah, I never owned Razer products either, but I've heard tell that they're pretty good.
I'm told they're really good.
Yeah.
I don't do enough PC gaming to make the investment.
Well, like my laptop is tricked out with Alienware, so I mainly have Alienware on mine. But Razer might be something I'd be tempted to grab if I wanted to get a peripheral that lit up and everything. Who knows? I'm still trying to plan my workstation when I move.
I'm really hoping that the Bethesda shows something about Elder Scrolls 6, but I don't expect it. I'm expecting I'm expecting StarCraft,
Right.
which might be good. A lot of people are hyped up for it.
That's a
I
big
think it's
title
weird
for
how
them.
hyped up people are for it when we haven't even seen anything but like an image that isn't even game image. It's just like a flower of metal in space or something. So we don't have anything to get excited over other than it's being made by Bethesda and that's in space. And so
It's a 90-minute
could be great,
showcase.
but I want.
You there?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking at
Yeah,
the
for
Bethesda stuff. It's a 90-minute showcase. It'll be announcing the completed acquisition. It looks like that's
they announced
mostly
their
what they're going to focus.
acquisition.
But yeah, I think that's what the most of their thing is going to be about.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of to Game Pass or first on Game Pass
Yeah.
or best at Xbox. So we're going to be. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of. I'm sure the word Game Pass. If someone chose to have a drinking game during that 90-minute presentation where they took a drink every time Game Pass got mentioned, they'll probably die.
Have alcohol poisoning, right? But
Yeah.
but it doesn't
Don't-
mention any.
Don't
specific
drink on the word
titles.
Game Pass during those 90 minutes.
Quick, somebody make a Lilu Dallas Game Pass meme
Right. Right, exactly.
and just spam it every time they say Game Pass.
or just have one of those cute little kittens that keep saying Game Pass. All right.
Uh,
So that's a lot to expect, especially if you're a gamer. If you're into like console and computer gaming, which I like, especially when it comes to console, that's your bread and butter, Philip.
mhm.
uh, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's going to be pretty exciting for you guys.
I
Uh,
will go ahead and watch the PC gaming show, but that one doesn't excite me because I'm
well,
not a
yeah,
PC guy.
because
But I will
no,
give it a watch.
yeah, I watch a little bit. Like I just recently, in fact, that was another thing I
Val-
was going to talk about.
Valve is making an appearance.
I'm actually going to mention something real quick before we segue over because I didn't put it in my schedule of things to talk about. But I just started playing. They opened up 2 new progressive servers over at EverQuest, over at Daybreak Studios. EverQuest, of course, is the second really MMO that came out. First was Ultima Online, and then EverQuest came out shortly after that. It released in 1999. And 98 and 99, I was a beta tester for it. I'm actually in the original rule book listed as a beta tester. But
Nice.
yeah, and they've got 2 new progressive servers just started. One of them is called Mischief, and I went ahead and got me an account on there, so I get this. For those who don't know, progressive server means it goes back to when the game first came out, and then every month or so, they slowly release stuff as it released in its original order to change the game. So you go back to playing like the game was before it all got nerfed with the popular stuff, and then it slowly progresses till it gets up to that. So you get a chance to relive those heydays when you really, really loved a game. And that was, I'm telling you, that was always my MMO of choice. EverQuest was the game to play.
Oh yeah.
So I've been playing that a little bit. I've been streamed it a little. But that's for people who are looking at things. They've got 2 new progressive servers that added to their list, and Mischief is the one I'm on now. So it's definitely worth checking out if you're an old EverQuest fan and want to get back to the old heyday. Now, you do need to be a paid member of Daybreak to play on a progressive server, but that's only $15 a month, and you can drop that down to like $9 a month if you pay by the year. So just an aside, kind of attached to the E3 announcement, and because I hadn't planned it because I forgot that was something I was going to cover this week. Um,
Yeah.
all right, now next we're going to get Greg to cover something, and I
I
think
do
you
want
had
to. I
what
do want to
now?
say one last thing. It's something I'm personally excited about. Is not confirmed, but there's a rumor that at the Summer Games Fest kickoff tomorrow, that Hideo Kojima is making an appearance. Nothing confirmed, but there is a picture of Hideo Kojima holding up a Game Fest badge that's recently floated around online that is presumably for this year. And he is close friends with Jeff Keighley, the guy who is put together the Game Fest. So if he makes his appearance, who knows what that means? Maybe it means an update for Death Stranding. Maybe it means talking about a new game that's a surprise. Who knows? But anytime Hideo Kojima is appearing anywhere, I get excited because he's my favorite game developer.
Right.
And
Well,
I'm good now. So go ahead.
okay. Now we're going to go ahead and go to one of Greg's things. Let's see. I think you had a Palia. Let's look. Tell us about
Yeah.
this Palia game.
This is a little out of my wheelhouse because it's a video game, not only a video game, but an MMO. And the last MMO I played was World of Warcraft, and it was over a decade ago. I've had bad experiences with online communities in general, and the
Wow,
World of
especially.
Warcraft. The World of Warcraft community was not welcoming. The only person I got along with was the person who invited me on. So I was skeptical, but then intrigued when I read about this game. It's being compared stylistically to Zelda Breath of the Wild and thematically and mechanically to Stardew Valley, which I have not played, but I've watched the Playframe YouTube channel play 12 episodes worth of it, and it looks like it's up my alley. It looks like a game that you can just chill out to after a long day or a long week.
Well, I
Uh,
know you stylized it as an MMO, and in a way, it's got some of those elements. But if I'm reading here, it's actually what it classifies as a community sim game for you and your friends, which is a lot more casual than the MMOs, which are much more competitive and can
yeah.
get very, very toxic. WoW is notorious for being the most toxic game on the internet. So if
Oh,
that's where,
that's as may be, but
yeah,
being being competitive and combative is not a prerequisite to being an MMO. It's still an
right.
MMO. It's just not
This is
us
yeah, but
versus. It's not the end of the world as we know it. It's not a zombie apocalypse.
right. Yeah, it's still
It's
massive
not fantasy
multiplayer.
races versus non.
It's
And
still
and
role
I'm
playing.
hoping and I'm hoping that the more pastoral nature of the game and the stylized version of it will cater to a different clientele. I've already signed up for the pre-alpha. There's not a lot of details out yet, except for the trailer, which you can see if you scroll down a little bit. It's only like 2 minutes long, and it looks nice. You farm. It looks a lot like a modern day. It looks like a high res version of Stardew Valley. There's fishing, there's mining, there's farming. You make friends with NPCs and with other players, obviously.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's focusing more on the sim aspects of MMOs instead of the
house
more adventure questing aspects.
house customization. Uh, yeah, or maybe even if you prefer a massively multiplayer version of
Farmville.
Animal Crossing,
Yeah,
maybe.
or kind of a blend of SimCity and Farmville.
There's not a lot of detail on the lore of the world yet, except that humans are the are kind of the fantasy race, insofar as they existed thousands of years ago and then they vanished, and now recently they are just appearing all over the world again. And from the context of the description, it sounds like you are required to play a human, but you encounter, based on the trailer, you encounter elves, you encounter robots. You meet a robot uh fisher in the first 30 seconds of the trailer. So
Oh, nice.
it
Well,
it looks very whimsical and chill, and
yeah,
I think a lot of us could use that.
yeah. A lot of us like games that are a little bit more chill, a little bit more what they call PVE, player versus the environment, instead of PvP, where everybody seems to cut through it against everybody else and is in competition. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's people are looking for some games sometimes to just chillax, and this looks like something. That's what the Sims games were always about anyway. They were about socializing and chillaxing, and that's kind of where the
Yeah.
Sims met the MMO. And
And in the spirit of engagement, I'm sure there will be competitions, but they'll be like fishing competitions, not like who can kill another player the fastest with a pickaxe or something. There's
right,
also a little bit of speculation on whether it might be ported to Switch,
ooh, that might
which
be
is probably
different,
ways off since it's that would be really cool. I'm sure that's a ways off considering the PC version is still in pre-alpha
Yeah.
and there's no official announcements on whether it's going to be available on any platform other than PC. But
but you never know,
if if that's yeah, that'd be a fun pipe dream.
right? Well, that's cool. Yeah. Me, I'm probably the biggest MMO fan of the three of us, and I've played a lot of different MMOs throughout the ages. But ones like these, the little chilly, more Sim City type MMOs, they're great for when you just want to go veg out for a little while, but not in that mood necessarily to kill goblins or something. You just want to kind of farm or fish or mine or just do something kind of very domestic or very, rural, back to nature kind of thing, and just kind of pretend you're back in the settlers times, or you're exploring a new planet or something like that. That's when these ones really make their shining star. And Pelia sounds like it's going to be something like that. So that's great. And there's room for more games like that in the MMO/sim subcategory of video games, because other games can get so extremely toxic. Like I play Fractured, and it's supposed to cater to both the PvE and the
Yeah.
PvP crowd, but because a lot of the alpha and the mechanical part is PvP heavy, people are getting really kind of like up in arms about it because they're like worried that it's going to turn into another PvP fest.
I guess that's
And
what I'm really banking on is that the vibes of the game, the tone of the game will cultivate a different culture than all the traditional MMOs and MOBAs out there.
right, especially like WoW and
I might be wrong. I might be wrong. It might blow up in my face, but it
yeah.
feels after all this time, after literally over a decade since the last time I played an MMO, it feels like it's time to throw my hat back in the ring.
Well, yeah, and like I said, you happen to actually play probably one of the most toxic MMOs out. It's still going. It's still going strong, but what carries that MMO is mostly the toxic player base. It actually caters to them a little bit more than it caters to the skillers and the casuals. So WoW and in the same regard, like League of Legends and Eve Online, those three are probably all from what I know of them, still pretty toxic in the MMO. There are some chill ones that you might like a little bit better, but you just hadn't had a chance to jump in on them, and that's completely understandable. There's somebody out there. Somebody out
quite
there.
Possibly, and quite possibly. And if anybody out there is thinking, oh, well, you need to be playing on an RP server, not a PvP server. I was playing on an RP server.
Yeah, that
we're
don't
still
matter.
Assholes.
That don't matter. WoW is absolutely toxic. I hate that game. I mean, it's quest driven, which some people like, some people don't. That's the part I really didn't like about it. But the other was the toxic community. I mean, nobody was helpful to anybody. Everybody was ready to just sneak you out into
like quest-driven
PvP.
storylines. I don't like a paladin who's 50 levels above me camping my corpse, keeping me from traversing more than 5 feet at a time between spawns.
Oh yeah, that spawn campers are terrible.
For example.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I like quests, but I don't like quest-driven games because a lot of the quest-driven games nowadays, the quests are namby-pamby quests. There's not a lot of detail to the quest to make you really want to get into the story part of it. They're just do this, do that. I don't want to list
good writing.
I want a quest. Like, for instance, I play old school RuneScape, and I don't play most of the quests unless it unlocks something. I try to avoid it until the last, or I'm bored or something. But there's a couple of quests that got some good meat and potato kind of RP in the quest. That's what I want. I want something that's going to tell me a good story, and I want to actually listen to the dialogue.
Yeah, it's not a matter of quests bad. It's a matter of writing bad.
And it's a matter of namby-pamby quests compared to if everything becomes a quest, it's not that, it's not a quest. It's not a quest to go pick up a few old ratty furs. If that's all you're going to give me, go pick me up some ratty furs and I'll make you some armor. That's not a quest. Or that's what they call a fetch quest. And fetch quests.
Can I choose the color?
Yeah, yeah. Can I choose the color? Exactly. I want a quest that has a little bit of dialogue behind it, and I mean meaningful dialogue, not just okay. There's a few wolves outside of the main gate. They've been getting a little bit rampant. If you'll help cut them down, I'll make you some armor out of their furs if you bring them back to me. That's a fetch quest. I don't want to do another one of those. But give me a quest that's got 8 or 12 or 16 stages to it, and there's really deep, rich dialogue all the way through that. That's the quest I want to do. I'm a role player. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons player. I want to actually sit through and dive into the depth of the story as much as possible. And it's quests like that that make you start feeling like you've almost in a game with a DM again. and there's some real story behind it, which is what RPGs should be to me anyway. It's virtual storytelling. I want virtual storytelling. I don't want just a shopping list that's called a quest. That's just me. and I don't want the toxic community either. I'm exactly like you. I don't want the toxic community. That's why I end up soloing most of the games I play, because I don't want to participate in the chats and toxic communities. I'm pretty much I stay out of a lot of the PvP areas because of spawn campers and shit like that. As much as possible, I avoid that too. So I totally am with you on that one, Greg. Um, But luckily, there
Yeah,
are other good
time will
quality
tell.
MMOs out there. There are other good quality MMOs out there without the toxic communities, and there's more coming out every day that are at least trying to start out without the toxic communities. It's just whether the MMO crowd from like WoW follows along, because the trouble is they
I
make big builds and they come from game to game to game.
I've had good luck with my Final Fantasy 14 playthrough, not running into many toxic people. Then again, I haven't played the PvP portion. I played it for like 350 hours, but I haven't gone into the Wolves Den, which is the PvP section.
Yeah,
it might be toxic as crap there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I am. I stay away from the PvP areas as much as possible
But,
myself, unless I'm going
this
to rescue somebody.
This Palia game, when is the pre-alpha start that you pre-registered for?
It doesn't say when the pre-alpha starts. It just, there's a link at the very bottom of the page to sign up for pre-alpha, and then there's a link to join their Discord community to keep up with updates. Also, one more thing, according to a GameRants.com article, it's being developed by a group called Singularity 6, and among their devs are former Riot and Blizzard developers. So you've got people
nice.
who used to work on League of Legends and
Diablo.
whatever Blizzard's done. Yeah.
Diablo and World of Warcraft and StarCraft and
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And some of that reflects on the style, I think, especially the pseudo cartoony World of Warcraft animation and character design style, but a little more cartoony and more pastoral.
Yeah, that was one of the benchmarks that World of Warcraft always did, that high anime where the elves had the big swoop back ears and the overly exaggerated anime style, where like EverQuest, which actually came out first, had the more realistic characters.
And the elves on this one don't look. The elves in this one don't look ridiculous. Like they have varying skin tone. They're blue to purple skin. They look like they kind of have the night elf aesthetic, but their ears are fairly reasonable. They look like they're, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches long.
So just a little bit bigger than Vulcan, but not swoop back.
Yeah,
freaking elf
enough
quest.
enough to clearly mark them as not human, but not long enough that you could wrap it around and strangle them with their own ears.
Right, because like there's the ElfQuest anime super swoop back giant ears double as antenna types, and then there's the more like Mr. Spock elf ears where they're a little bit more subdued, very much more Tolkien-esque ears that are just like a little bit swooped up at the tips, but they don't go above the hairline, all the way up above the whole head. They might stick out of the hair, but they don't go above the hairline all the way. So that's what I like too. I don't mind anime. Don't get me wrong, but it's got its place. There's sometimes when I want things to be a little bit more understated, and that's
tropes
nice.
Tropes are tools. They're not good. They're not bad, but they can be overdone very easily.
Yeah, not every trope fits every situation. That's the thing people got to realize. It's not a cookie cutter world out there. You can't take whatever works for this and automatically assume it's going to work for that. You gotta actually play to what your audience is looking for, and one of the things your audience is looking for is variety. At times, we want to see things done where they stand out in their own way. We don't want them to just be another carbon copy of everybody else's anime vision. Sometimes it's not about being anime. Sometimes it's simply about just being a good quality product with good pastoral scenes. Like I love the details just of the flowers on this opening scene that they're blowing in the wind.
They do a great job setting the scene.
That in and of itself would get me to want to at least check it out. you know, and the guy in the background there fishing, and it looks like that's the robot. Yeah, that in and of itself would have me kind of interested in possibly checking this out,
Yeah,
especially with the little like vague ruins across the water that you kind of want to go
I'm,
explore.
I'm getting the kind of vibes that games from Zen Studios would give off. Like, they made Flower and Journey,
Also, it
which
also
those were like relaxing video games,
it
and
even
it feels
gives
like
me
it's giving off that.
some of the vibes of like the old Myst game, where it was more about solving the puzzles than it was
Yeah.
about fighting monsters and stuff. Myst was one of my favorites, but then I solved Myst in 3 hours, so that was something. uh, okay, well that was a great update. Now let's see, what do we want to go to next? I'm gonna talk about something real quick. Where did I put it? My place. Okay, on Netflix now. A new series is premiered. It's called Sweet Tooth. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about this series, but it's actually from a Vertigo imprint comic. Um, and a Canadian comic book artist and writer wrote it. And it's a kind of a, I don't want to say fully dystopian future world because it's not really that far ahead of us right now. What happens is a big virus hits, not COVID, hopefully. And at the same time the virus hits, in all the nurseries and the hospitals, all the babies have suddenly mutated and they're now part animal. So they're hybrids. And the story follows along with the main character, Gus, who gets nicknamed early on by his main sidekick, Sweet Tooth, who's a half deer boy, who's raised by his father away from society. So while society's hunting down and trying to kill and or capture all the other hybrids because they think that they might have brought the disease, and there's even possibilities that they something about them might even be part of the cure for the disease. He has been raised in the wild by his father, and so he's never experienced the wide world. They've lived up in the mountains and just kind of lived off the land. And then eventually his dad does succumb to the sickness and dies. And then he has to go out into the world. And shortly before he actually leaves the place that him and his dad had lived for the first, 11, 12 years of his life or whatever, this traveler, well, these guys that hunt hybrids show up, but this one traveler saves him. And he ends up following the traveler. The traveler actually doesn't want him to follow him, but he follows him anyway because he's found an old picture of what was his mother, and it said in the back that she was in Colorado. So he wants to go to Colorado to see if he can find his mom. And it's a big kind of roaming storyline where they meet, but everybody's kind of surprised when they see Gus because he's a hybrid that can actually talk and communicate because he actually was raised as a human child. He wasn't hunted and everything else, so he had a chance to develop and actually become a real person, not just an animal. And they go through a lot of
I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy, yes. And they go through a lot of these kind of things with a semi-dystopian kind of futuristic thing, but it's more like the world is folding back towards nature, and it's even rumored by some of the people that the birth of the hybrids was nature's response to the humans destroying so much of nature. The hybrids are able to live off the land and not despoil it, and they're not predisposed to despoil it. And so that's why all the new children were mutated into hybrids, is to make them more in line with the land and everything. But that's just one theory. This show goes for 8 episodes on Netflix for the first season, and they do leave you with a cliffhanger. I'll tell you that right now. So it doesn't go all the way through the comic book, and you definitely want to see the next season as soon as that first season is over with. You're like chomping at the bit, saying, "Now what happens next?" So it's a new thing on Netflix. I don't recognize any of the actors in it so far, but that's okay. It's good to sometimes see some new faces. The boy that plays Gus is very endearing. You think he's cute and precocious and just this
Was
side
that
of
pun intended?
yeah.
That
And
he's endearing?
yes, and he's just this side of annoying because he's like 11, 12-year-old kid. He's constantly asking like, you know, why and what's this, and he'd never really. The reason he gets nicknamed Sweet Tooth, for instance, is he'd never really gotten to eat a lot of candy or nothing because his dad didn't provide him with candy. He did, however, let him try syrup a couple of times, and that was always his epitome of sweet stuff was syrup, which I think it's actually supposed to take place in like Vermont or some area like that, which is a big syrup area. And so one of the things he does while the big man that he's traveling with is sleeping is he gets into the guy's pack and eats all the guy's rations, mostly the sweet stuff first. And that's how he gets nicknamed Sweet Tooth, is because of that. Now he does help the guy find more food because he's got a much better sense of smell, and they do end up, not starving to death or anything, so he doesn't beat the crap out of him. But you'd be pretty close to doing that if you were in a post-apocalyptic future and somebody ate all your rations.
Yeah, if a boy who's part deer ate all your food, you might start trying to rationalize how much of that boy is actually deer.
How much is venison, right? Right.
Yeah.
So hold on a second. Wait, are you a boy or are you venison? That's a nice juicy looking hind leg.
Yes.
No. But and it also, you find out kind of early on that his companion used to be one of the people that hunted the hybrids, and they're called like the real men or the new men or something like that. But it's really an interesting story, and like I said, it is based on a comic book, so it totally fits our purview. But it's one of those Vertigo imprints, and the Vertigos were always a little bit off and out there. So this is one of the different ones that doesn't kind of link up with any of the other comic book series that I know of. But
Yeah.
it's worth checking out. It's only 8 episodes to watch. You can binge it in a day or two.
I saw it on Netflix last night. Actually, I saw it on the list on Netflix. I was actually looking for episodes of Archer, but instead I watched something else that I stumbled across.
Yeah, Archer.
I saw the Sweet Tooth on there. My first thought to Sweet Tooth was I thought of Twisted Metal, because there's a character named Sweet Tooth in that. And so before I saw any artwork, I saw the word Sweet Tooth and I was like, Twisted Metal? And I saw the artwork. I was like, no, this is some kooky deer people thing.
I love Sweet Tooth and Twisted Metal. That was my favorite character to play. But
yeah,
back when I played Twisted Metal.
What I did find, though, what I ended up watching on Netflix, something else I thought we might want to mention. Bo Burnham has a new Netflix special.
You had said that. Now, I'm not familiar with Bo Burnham, but I just looked him up. I guess he's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, he's a stand-up comedian. He's a really kooky comedian who uses a lot of music. And so, like, every stand-up special he has also has a music CD that comes with it for all the songs that he sang for that special. And there's other stuff, too, besides just the songs. But that's the big thing. And his new special, he hasn't done a special in 5 years. He got really big really fast. Like his first special was on his 18th birthday. I think that was a Comedy Central special, if I remember right. And
Nice.
then, but then after he did his last one, he got out of doing stand-up for a few years because he was starting to have like anxiety attacks, panic attacks on stage.
Right.
He's like, that is not the place to have those. And so then he decided he's going to do stand-up again in January of last year, and started working on a new set for doing stand-up again when the pandemic became a problem. So he recorded his special in a house, like in a little home. Now, according to what he says on it, he recorded all this by himself in where he's living. I kind of wonder how much of that is just a set kind of put on. And I don't want to give away like all the jokes or nothing like that, but I just want to say like the premise sorry. The premise is him, making a special that he's recording on his own while secluded inside. And the special's called Inside. And so some parts of it, it's him like singing some silly song about loneliness or something, and then other parts it'll be him like getting frustrated with setting up the lights just right or something like that, and his hair is gradually growing longer as the time progresses.
Okay.
I think it's like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. It was a really good show.
Well,
and I know.
Go ahead.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
I was saying his fan base, I think, falls in line with a lot of people that are into our kinds of hobbies.
Stand-up comedy.
He has a ton of song that just kind of rips on stuff.
And stand-up comedy kind of fits across everybody anyway. Speaking of stand-up, first off, I got two things that were comments that came to mind. First off, the anxiety he was going through that made him jump out for a little bit. Actually, I recently watched something that talked about how that's one of the reasons Brendan Fraser hasn't been doing a lot of big roles lately, is because he had stepped back for his health, and part of that was anxiety. And so it hits a lot of people, including like big actors like Brendan Fraser. The other thing is on stand-up comedy. During the pandemic, Christopher Titus, who's a great stand-up comedian, one of the things he's done all through the pandemic is for like every week for like 5 or 6 weeks until he ran out of specials, he released one of his specials on YouTube, the entire special, free to watch. So if you go to Christopher Titus on YouTube, you can watch like I think there's a total of like 9 Christopher Titus specials, the complete 90-minute specials. And I've been watching them over and over again because he's absolutely freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
And so that's another great thing is he did it specifically in support of us who are staying home and being careful. He's like, well, I can't go out and I can't do any new specials, but I'm going in my archives and I'm going to go ahead and release my full specials for everybody to watch and enjoy while you stay home.
It's funny you mentioned Christopher Titus specifically because whenever someone asks me, because whenever I do stand-up comedy, sometimes someone will ask me what comedians like inspire me, and my style of stand-up comedy is pretty inspired by Titus. Like I feel like my style of comedy is similar to Titus's style, where I'm like telling stories about messed up stuff that's happened, but trying to tell it in a funny lens.
Yeah, I kind of liken my stand-up comedy to George Carlin, but I totally get you. Christopher Titus too.
It's nice to see how many stand-up comedians have adapted to the pandemic. Bo Burnham's doing this, obviously. Kevin Hart did a stand-up comedy show from his own living room and invited close friends into his house, but they were like obviously social distanced, and it was a crowd, but it was a crowd of like a dozen people. Yeah. But then he put it on Netflix.
Nice.
I was thinking of one more.
Dave Chappelle has been doing an interesting thing where I think he bought like a cabin or something and has been doing shows out there where people have to like be vetted and get tested, and then they come out and have like they'll be like in little groups where there'll be like 2 or 3 people together that came together at a little booth, and then like 6 feet over another little bench or something, a couple of lawn chairs.
Patton Oswalt did a show and sold tickets through a website to watch virtually, and I think some of the proceeds went to charity. And they're not technically a stand-up comedy group, but the comedy music group Ninja Sex Party, they stopped doing in person. They stopped doing live music videos a year ago, but they've kept their media presence up by doing animated music videos, which are really good, and a lot of them are people who used to do fan animations for Game Grumps.
And then,
cool.
In addition to that, Saturday Night Live did a few episodes where all the people came in through Zoom, and so they zoomed from their house to do their sketches through Saturday Night Live. So they only did like 2 or 3 of their episodes that way before they came back to the studios, because they were a little late to coming back. But they did try to do that because they're kind of the gold standard when it comes to sketch comedy groups. Mm-hmm. The original Primetime Players is known the world over. It's where people like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and stuff really got going.
Yeah. And Bill Burnham himself specifically, he was kind of an interesting person on his own, because I knew he had anxiety trouble. He has a hard time with like hecklers, like really bad time with hecklers, because when he does a stand-up set, every single movement, every accident, every stutter, everything about his stand-up bits is fully prepared and exactly as it is. If he knocks over a bottle of water accidentally, he deliberately accidentally does it. And he actually makes that a joke where he'll like knock it over, and then you have a voiceover who's like, accidentally knocked over the water. Thought you thought I did it by mistake. It was on purpose. And
art is a lie. Nothing is real.
Yes, art is a lie. Nothing is real. That's how it ended. But like, and so he hates it whenever people like interrupt it.
I'm gonna have to check this guy out.
Yeah. His very first special, how he got famous was he made YouTube videos of him singing silly songs in like his bedroom at his parents' house. And those YouTube videos went viral, and that's how he got a Comedy Central special. And he opens up the Comedy Central special saying, the name of the special is, if you sing along, I'll fucking kill you.
Yes. I think
I didn't know about his perfectionism and his need for control, but I thought of that bit after you said that, and that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that how Mikey Mason got his start too? Was by making YouTube videos and stuff, and then he just gradually graduated into doing full kind of comedy.
I believe you're right. I couldn't say for sure, but I think so.
So stand-up definitely plugs into the nerdosphere. So anytime we want to bring up stand-up, I'm totally behind it, guys. So, I mean, because we want to touch on everything in the nerdosphere. And stand-up comedy involves theater, involves joking, involves going against the norm, and observational humor, which is, kind of a meat and potatoes for nerds anyway. We love actually looking at the world in a different way.
He also put out a book of poetry.
Yeah. Now, I will say, Will Burnham's stand-up, generally speaking, it can be pretty offensive. But he's offensive in an ironic way, right? Like, he has a song called Straight White Male. And it's a parody song mocking white guys complaining about how hard life is.
Yeah. So like Weird Al Yankovic's First World Problems.
Yeah.
It's meaningfully offensive. It rarely comes off as I'm being edgy for the sake of being edgy, which is a trap a lot of stand-up comedians fall in, especially since the early aughts.
Right. Okay, well, That was a great actual segment. We got a lot into that one. Let's see. Um, Next thing that let's see. We talked about Bo Burnham for you, so let's go to one of Greg's topics. Let's see. How about the Magic the Gathering one that you were going to talk about? The Stranger Things thing.
Yeah. Magic the Gathering, for those of you who don't know, has a not so secret lair called Secret Lair. The website is actually secretlair.wizards.com. Um, and it's simply you sign up with your email address and they send you notifications when they're doing some new secret project. And it's a collaboration with artists to do special designs and not really mechanics. The articles that I've read indicate that they put the cards that they print, they re-release under different titles and with different art so that the cards are actually playable. But if you want access to these limited edition runs, then you can buy them at your leisure. And the latest set that they're doing is Stranger Things themed. And yeah,
Nice.
you've got the web page up there, and you can see a really good intense illustration
Of
of
11.
Eleven doing her kinetic blast bit.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I can't wait till the next Stranger Things season starts. Oh my God, I'll be chomping at the
Yeah,
bit for that one.
I'm off Netflix. I'm off Netflix at the moment, but I will renew my subscription once season 4 comes out, and I'm sure I'll have a list of things to binge by then. Uh,
Yeah, Sweet Tooth
but
might be
yeah,
one you might.
quite possibly, it looks intriguing.
It
Um,
is. I liked it. But
It
yeah,
says in the Dicebreaker article they do Secret Layers limited print sets feature alternate artwork, sometimes from guest illustrators of previously printed cards. So some new people, some people who are Magic the Gathering veterans, artistically speaking, they've done a Walking Dead set previously, which apparently caused a bit of controversy from people who understandably thought that maybe WotC was putting some of their Magic the Gathering content behind a paywall, which they kind of are, but it looks like they've made a commitment to not put the actual, like, these are collectors items first of all, so as if somebody would take these cards and put them in sleeves and try to play them in a tournament deck, but maybe some people do. But it sounds like Wizards has a commitment to not keep these cards mechanically behind a paywall. Whatever these cards are, they are either repurposed from a card that existed previously, or they're cards that are going to be re-released under a more thematically on-brand set or
right,
expansion.
right, okay. And that kind of segues into one
It
of my
also says
topics.
that the
Go ahead.
yeah. It also says that they're going to be released for the Commander format, which is interesting. What used to be called uh Elder Dragon,
Yeah,
Elder Dragon Highlander. So
EDH.
I'm wondering if that 11 card is going to be a potential commander, or how they're going to mix that up.
I know.
Whether all the kids are going to be their own individual cards, or whether they're going to all have their own commander themes, or whether I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a lot to speculate about that.
I stopped playing Magic before all that stuff became the hype. I played it from the alpha beta, and then stopped in Invasion Block. So I stopped way before that. But it does kind of segue into one of my topics, so I think I'm going to go
Yeah,
next.
sure.
Um, Dungeons and Dragons, of course, the other big product from Wizards of the Coast, other than Magic the Gathering, has, of course, in the fifth edition, brought in the Magic the Gathering campaign settings as one of their new campaign settings. Well, a couple of their new campaign settings, actually. And they're doing it again. And so in November, they've got a new book coming out called Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos, which is a new campaign setting book for Dungeons and Dragons in the Magic the Gathering world. And if you go onto the D&D Beyond website, they've got a couple of articles on things like the Strixhaven Colleges of Magic and stuff. So you can pre-order that now, which is another great product if you're interested in expanding your Magic the Gathering subset of Dungeons and Dragons worlds, because a lot of people like to link all the Magic the Gathering ones together into one like kind of semi-cohesive world, and they're always looking for new Magic the Gathering kind of source material. And there's some independent stuff out there, but this is another official source book that comes out in November. Now, the main thing I wanted to talk about, even more than that, but this is what segued us, is in addition to that, they've got a new big product coming out in September called the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which basically allows a whole bunch of adventures, a new adventure book, not a campaign book, but an adventure book, but it's all in the Feywild. Probably one of the most least understood and most fascinating sub-dimensions of Dungeons and Dragons is the Feywild. It's where all the fairy creatures have supposedly originated from. It's where elementals come from. A lot of that kind of thing, they come from this Feywild area, and it's really underdeveloped. And so to bring a whole adventure book based in the Feywild is opening up basically Alice in Wonderland for D&D. This is where let's all go in and check out the Seelie Unseelie court type of thing. If you're a fan of old Gaelic whatever fairy tales and stuff. So that is probably going to be on just about everybody's wish list for D&D adventure books. Not everybody gets all the adventure books, but an adventure book that details a so little understood plane like the Feywild, I think is going to be a little bit more appealing even to the ones who don't run those pre-constructed adventures as much. They've been actually doing a kind of a slew of stuff like that, because they did the Candle Keep mysteries recently for mystery-themed adventurers. And before that, they recently did a Van Richten's Guide, which basically did Ravenloft. So they're exploring more and more of some of the demi planes and the off planes of Dungeons and Dragons. Which, if you're a Dungeons and Dragons player like myself and Greg, this is the kind of stuff that excites me. I like to hear about more planes of existence, and I like to get more crunchy content that I can use and adapt to my own campaigns. So keep an eye out. Go to dndbeyond.com. In the marketplace, you can pre-order these two books. Candle Keep is currently available for $30 digitally. And anything you buy digitally on the D&D Beyond app, I haven't talked about a D&D Beyond product in a few of our episodes. So just to remind you, if you buy it on the D&D Beyond app, it automatically integrates with your character builder and other tools on the website. So, like, for instance, if there's any character options in the book you buy, they get added to your character builder, so you can start using those options once the book releases, if you get the digital version. Plus, you can look at the full digital version online without having to worry about, pirating it. So, and it's usually about $10 to $20 to, $30 cheaper than buying the hardbound book. It's not massively cheaper, but it's still, cheaper. Because, like, the $30 price tag for the Witchlight book means that it's probably going to be a $50 to $60 book when it comes out in stores. And the $27 price tag for Strixhaven means about the same thing. It's going to be in the $45 to $60 range when it comes out as a book. And it's nice to have the physical books. Don't get me wrong. Everybody likes to have the feel of a book in their hand. But in this modern digital era, when a lot of games are done online, or a lot of DMs are bringing like their laptops to run their games because it's easier than bringing a whole library of books. So they have it on their laptops and their tablets and stuff. It's nice to have the ability to access your books on the D&D Beyond website. I know I use it. I have a paid full DM's membership, which means I can have an unlimited number of characters in the character builder and have full access to all. And I own most of the rule books. I don't have a lot of the adventure books, but I got almost all the rule books. So I've got most of the character options automatically on my character builder. And that's nice. And of course, you can print out your character sheet, or you can run it on the current character app, which they've actually integrated the regular app and the character app together into one app now. So you can play using your app on like your phone or your tablet at the table and not have to worry about printing out physical sheets every time your character levels up and stuff. Just like I always tell the players, don't let your phone become a distraction. If you're using it to play the game, that's fine. Just don't use it to play Farmville while you're playing the game. You know?
God. Yeah.
That's the thing. If you're there to play a game with your friends and interact and stuff, show them the respect of focusing on them and the game that you guys came together to play. And don't be checking your email and posting on Reddit and stuff like that when it distracts from the game. If you got a few dead moments, nothing's going on, sure. But during the
But when you look
game,
up your but when you look up from your phone when it's your initiative and you have to be reminded who you're fighting and which of them are still standing, you got problems.
Then it's time for maybe you to put your phone away and use.
For example.
Oh, is it my turn? Yes.
Yeah.
Who's still alive? Well, we've only been fighting the same troll for the last 20 minutes, so the troll.
The first thing out of your mouth shouldn't be, okay, what's happening? Because you should have been paying attention to the last two people to play and planning your actions so that when your turn comes around, you only have to make a couple of quick decisions based on what you just saw happen. You want to give the respect to the other people that have gathered together as a community to play this game. It's simple respect, guys, and stuff. I don't have any problem with people using digital tools to play the games. I use digital tools to run and play the games. Just don't use it as an excuse to also be doing all these other things. Like, you don't need to be playing your Nintendo Switch while you're playing a game. You don't need to be checking your email or doing your turns on Puzzle Fighter or something like that. You need to be focused in on the game. Mm-hmm. But these are some great new resources that you can pick up, and that's really what I had to cover on this part. Were you going to say something?
Did I just hear the Mario woohoo jump sound effect from the healer's side of the table? This does not bode well.
That's right. I know. I'm not saying that I have never popped in at the end of a battle and played, but that's involved with the game. It's not distracting from the game. There's a difference.
I'm thinking about the healer being distracted from the game because he's trying to play Mario Run or something.
Exactly.
Woo, woo,
exactly.
Woo,
that's why great DMs like Satine Phoenix, she has you put your phones on the floor. You know, she's like, phones on the floor. I mean, if you're a parent or something, you need to have up for emergency. She's fine as long as you show respect. But most of the time, she wants your phone on the floor. You know, or in your bag or in your purse, but away from you. And she doesn't want you to use like as much of the digital tools to run your characters because there's too much temptation to open up another window and start doing other stuff. Although part of that is also on us DMs, because if we're not actually engaging you, that's part of our problem, but you have to let us know that's our problem. If you're just going to jump into that game instead of giving us some other more clear indication that, hey, I'm bored, we're not going to realize that you're not getting drawn into the story, and we're going to just keep going the way we're going. So you got to let us DMs know, because DM's an interactive helper. He's not like a lot of people think you're antagonist in the game. He plays all the antagonists, yes, but he is not the enemy in the game. He is there to facilitate the game for everybody, and that means we need feedback. We need to know if you're having fun or not having fun, because if you're just suffering in quiet, you're going to keep suffering because we're not going to know that we need to change anything. And if you're focusing in on those kind of things instead of the game, we're not going to know we need to change anything. So simple respect, focusing on the game, and give your DM feedback that's game related. And I love it when my players pop up with something like the victory after they beat the big boss, or somebody else goes, finish him, right before they kill the big bad guy. You know,
Yeah.
I love that because it tells me they're paying attention and getting into it.
So I don't want to take too much time on this, but I just had to share like a really brief little story that I did when I was playing Pathfinder once. I was playing a campaign on Pathfinder, and one of our players managed to, convince the DM to like make a couple of adjustments, take a couple of exceptions here or there over time.
Uh-oh.
That at the initial time it didn't seem like harmful, but over time these little adjustments accumulated to making him way OP, and it made every combat encounter really boring for everybody else. And then one day, while we were playing, and we just had like a big, what's supposed to be a challenging battle scenario, and his OP character managed to like wipe out half of the other opponents in one instance. So after that battle encounter, he had to take a restroom break, and the DM says to the rest of us, he's like, his exact words weren't this, because it'd be out of context, but basically he said, how would the rest of you guys feel? Would anybody here be bothered if I managed to nerf his character? And then we were all like, please do. It sucks having him so OP. And so he comes back, and like before we have our next combat encounter, he has something that comes up that throws a wrench in the gears and messes up that character. So now he's cut back down to being more on level with the other players.
And
it really helped keep it fun for everyone else. That guy was upset, but
well, that's the thing. DMs, especially in the more modern D&D, one of the benchmarks is try never to say no to your players. On the other hand, you still want it to be everybody on an equal keel, and so a small adjustment might seem small unless a player gets real creative and starts really, really exploiting it.
Yeah,
and
that's basically what happened. He got real creative and kept exploiting this and that until eventually, over the course of 4 months, or so of playing every week, he became just way OP, and no one else was enjoying it.
And really, if I'm the player and that happens because of something I did, I'm going to be quick to ask the DM to nerf me back.
Yeah.
Because obviously the temptation's there to use the thing to my best ability, because I'm that kind of person. I want to optimize how I use my character within the role playing, and if that's how the character would play, that's how I'd play it. So I want him to nerf me back. But not every player is that. Some of them are intentionally trying to find an exploit. And I don't quite fully understand those players, because it's not D&D is not a winning-losing game. It's a let's everybody have fun and tell a great story game. But people forget that or don't realize that in the first place because they might be new or never had fully encountered a role-playing group of D&Ders. And everybody's been very adversarial and competitive. And like you're talking about in the MMOs, there is a toxic environment that you can find in some groups, because everybody's more worried about exploiting their characters and making them the star of the show than they are about working together to solve the story. So that's what you really want to work towards. But anyway, like you said, we don't want to spend all our time on that. Wow, we've gone through a lot of time of our show already. We've got a couple other things going. Okay, a big one you were going to talk about. We're still talking about games here, so let's go ahead and talk about Overwatch.
Okay. So this one will probably be a shorter topic.
That's
But
good.
Overwatch, the original game, which came out in 2016, getting a huge update where you will now be able to cross-play between PCs and consoles. So PlayStation players can play against Xbox players, against PC players, against Nintendo Switch players on Overwatch. Now,
So,
PC players can't play against console players on dedicated teams in competitive mode because PC players have an advantage with the mouse and keyboard stuff.
right.
But like on unranked matches, for like friendly
On
plays,
casual mode.
then
Casual mode.
Yeah, on casual mode, basically. I don't remember what the word is for casual mode in there. But basically, casual mode, everyone can intermingle together and play how they want to play for many system. They don't have cross progression, but they're adding in cross play. It's not in yet. It's coming soon. The original, like this article specifically, originally said it's in it now, and they had to make a correction and say it's coming soon. But I think that's really good to see. I think what this really is, the big deal about this is they're putting this in now because they are working on Overwatch 2. And you might think up front, why waste time updating Overwatch 1 with this big of a patch when they're in the middle of Overwatch 2? Well, I'm sure that by doing this in Overwatch 1, this is giving them testing grounds to improve the technology as much as possible before they put it into Overwatch 2.
Yeah, it's a great way to alpha test it.
Yes, it's basically their alpha test before the new game comes out. So it can come out a little more spotless.
And that's the thing. A lot of games are starting to, well, I won't say a lot of games. A small number of games that's growing are starting to try to become more cross-platform play for online play because there are a lot of friends who want to play together, but they're using different platforms. And so they're starting to be more available. It's still not a large group of games.
Yeah.
But there are more of them being added every day.
And like any other crossplay game, and even actually more so, this game will benefit from it a lot in both, not just being able to play with your friends on other platforms, but finding matches. Like, I tend to play the assist class, the healer class, right? So I tend to get into I play support class, so I tend to get into a match fairly quickly. But if I play a regular DPS character, I can wait 5 minutes before I get paired up with the team. Just sitting there waiting.
Because DPS are a
larger, when we're giving you a larger pool of players to play with, should dramatically lower your wait times on getting a match together. I know whenever Angel and I play together, if I'm playing, even if I'm playing healer and he's playing DPS, if I'm playing support and he's playing DPS, it could still take us several minutes to get into a match. But if he decides to be tank while I'm support, we tend to get in really fast. And he's just like, I like playing this one specific tank, but I also like playing these 7 different DPS characters.
Well,
but if I want to play very many matches, I got to do.
Everybody wants that play of the game.
Well, it's like D&D. The most popular role in most parties is the DPS guy, which is why there's actually more predisposed DPS classes than any other classes in like 4th and 5th edition, even though they can each be built to be the other roles. DPS is the one that's doing the most damage, the one that has the most effect in combat. And so for the rank and file player who wants to see that they do the most, DPS is going to be what you want to play. And that's true in a lot of computer games too. In EverQuest, the people that are looking for groups, they always want to find, 2 or 3 good DPSers to go. You only need, nobody wants to play them. You really could use them, but nobody really wants to play them all the time. But the support guy, to a lot of people, is boring. luckily, I've had some friends that are really great at playing healers and support characters, and I love playing Enchanter. When I do go group play in like EverQuest, I'll bring an Enchanter or a Bard, no problem, and I'll help the whole party. But it's easier to get a group for you because nobody else wants to play it. Everybody's fighting to be the one that does the killing blow. You know,
for me, when it's a game that has it, I'm the guy who wants to play a magic user. Whether that magic user is a DPS or the magic user is a summoner or support, I want to be magic. And so
that's me too. I play primarily magic users. But a lot
there's not
of
many magic tank classes out there, though.
No, magic
you don't
is
see
very...
it
Magic, the closest to the magic tank is the summoner. They summon a tank pet.
Yeah.
And that's how they fulfill the tank class. But mostly your magic ones end up being support or DPS. That's your two magic slots for the most part.
And then also, with this, I want to mention a reminder. A few weeks ago, we had a story about how Overwatch 2, they were going to cut the number of tanks on each team from 2 tanks to 1 tank. So if they cut it down to where a team only has 1 tank, and then they get crossplay, that will also add to the ease of finding a full team on the next release, on the next version.
Right.
So I think that's pretty exciting updates. Nothing like wanting to play a game that you have to keep waiting several minutes in between rounds or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all we got to say on that. You know, we don't need to spend too much time on it.
Okay.
I was thinking, you want to go to something else, or do you want to go to the last video game thing I had up here?
Well, I was going to ask Greg because he usually jumps out once we start the media stuff. Did we have anything else you were going to talk about today, Greg?
No, we hit on my 2 points of interest.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure. So at any time you can go ahead and log off, but we'll go ahead and go on to your next, unless you want to say your goodbyes real quick. We'll go on.
I'll stick around. I'll stick around to hear about this, and then I'll take off right before the media stuff.
Because I do have 2 things before the media stuff. I guess one of them might count as media stuff. But the next thing is Battlefield 2042. This is going to be another shorter story. The new Battlefield game, Battlefield 2042, that's coming out this October, has been announced. It is a multiplayer, all-out multiplayer warfare game. Not a battle royale, they say, but it has 128 players in a match.
Oh, wow.
That's a battle royale. I'm sorry.
That's quite substantial. It's not the largest number of players I've seen in a multiplayer match. I used to play MAG, which stood for Massive Action Game, on the PS3, and it had a 256 players, shooter game. But still, this is huge. 128 players. It's going to be a chaotic battle. It's going to be multiplayer only. No single player campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, me personally, I'm typically more of a campaign guy. I always play the campaign game on games that I like. But I don't personally play much of Battlefield, so I can't say a whole lot on it. I did spend a lot of time on Battlefield 1942. And Battlefield Bad Company back on I think it was PS3 was pretty cool. They had a story and everything. But I haven't been touching. I haven't played a Battlefield game since PS3. This one, me personally, I wouldn't pay full price for it. But if I could get it a good discount, I'd be interested in giving it a try, because this huge 128 player battle in this somewhat futuristic setting sounds like it could be pretty exciting. Comes out October 22nd. They had a little bit of a video comes out. They got people on little flight suits, and there's tornadoes and all sorts of things going on. So it sounds like it's going to be kind of chaotic with all sorts of different things. But yeah, anyone that's interested in first-person shooters, take a look at this insanity. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a picture of a guy flying on a flight suit with a tornado behind him. Like, there's gonna be
Nice.
tornadoes in the matches. I don't know the details on how exactly all that stuff's gonna work, but
That's a neat
could be
photo
pretty
there.
damn cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's see. I think that was everything we had for video games and stuff. The last
Yeah,
two things we had were media related before we go into our normal media stuff.
yeah.
So
That's my last video game thing.
one is my throwback recommendation for the week. Treat Williams is in a series of movies called The Substitute that was done back in the like the 80s. He actually starts in Substitute number 2, and then he also stars in number 3. Now, it's interesting because it's one of those paramilitary martial arts kind of action things like my recommendation from last week. But what's funny is nowadays we don't think of Treat Williams as an action star. He's in things like Chicago Fire and Everwood and Blue Bloods. So he's in police procedurals, or he's the heartwarming dad
Yeah,
that we think of. But Treat Williams played a badass mercenary and special forces soldier in the Substitute 2 and the Substitute 3. He was actually the lead character. He wasn't the lead in the first one, and I don't remember who played the lead in the first one. But it's a series worth checking out, and all three of them are on Tubi. I need to correct from last week. I said that all 5 of the American Ninjas were on Tubi. The 5th one is not. I can't seem to find it at all. So it's 1 through 4 that are on Tubi though. But Treat Williams is my throwback. Is check out Treat Williams in the Substitute 2 and the Substitute 3. And go ahead and check out the Substitute 1 because it's a great movie too. It just doesn't happen to have Treat Williams as the main character.
Mm-hmm.
They refer to him. They're from the same kind of unit. They both work together, but they just kind of switch gears and go to a different lead guy for the second and the third movie. But they're really great action adventure martial arts special forces kind of movies, which always ticks a few boxes for us nerdier type movie watchers. We love those martial arts flicks. We love special forces kind of thing. I'm much more into it than like a straight military flick. I mean, as much as like Full Metal Jacket is a great movie, it's not what I would call a nerd movie. No. It's more of a military guy movie, which comes slightly different.
Yeah.
Tell the kid he's got to do my sodas. Let's see. And then the last one was, before we went into our regular media stuff, is you wanted to talk about, and I'm really excited about, Rob Zombie.
Yeah. Rob Zombie is making a movie of the Munsters.
Rob Zombie's making a movie adaptation of the Munsters.
That'll be interesting.
The Munsters, the classic 60s sitcom that was like, they're kind of like the Addams Family if the Addams Family wasn't filthy rich and they were all some kind of a monster type, you know? Vampire, Frankenstein, monster stuff.
A lot of people didn't know that it was actually a direct response to the Addams Family. The Addams Family came out, and then the Munsters was built, trying to be a competing product. And they both had a big enough following that they really didn't have to worry about each other. But of course, the Addams Family was based on an old cartoon strip. But the Munsters didn't have any beginning like that. The Munsters started on TV.
Right. And so the Munsters, you know, they're kind of the working man's Addams Family, I guess.
The blue collar Addams Family. Yeah. They were,
blue collar. There you go. The blue collar Addams Family. I like that.
Herman Munster had to go to work every day, pack a lunch, you know.
Now, for those that don't know, this is going to be a passion project for Rob Zombie because Rob Zombie adores the Munsters. He's always adored the Munsters. One of his biggest songs that he wrote called Dragula is about Herman Munster's car. And that's one of his biggest hits is that song about the car.
Right? Yeah,
And I know
Dracula
there's
is huge.
I watched Rob Zombie do one of those like what's that show Cribs or whatever, MTV Cribs. I don't know if it was actually
Right.
MTV, but it was a show like MTV Cribs if it wasn't that one, where he was showing the things in his house with a camera crew. And he has this like old picture that he keeps in his house, an old framed photo of I think it's that blonde woman there on the Monsters. I apologize. I was a huge Addams Family fan. I watched some of the Monsters, but not a lot of them. So I don't remember the blonde-haired character. But I
That's
believe,
Lily.
if I remember right,
That's Lily.
I believe Rob Zombie has a picture of her like posing on the hood of the Dracula car, Herman Munster's car, and he's like, "This is an embodiment of everything I love: beautiful blondes and classic cars from 60s television or something like that."
and monster related. And monster related to
yeah, and monster related. I kind of joked when I learned about this. It was off of Rob Zombie's tweeting about it because I follow Rob Zombie on Twitter, and he tweeted. That was how I discovered it. He tweeted about it, and I had to share it, going and saying he doesn't even need to buy a set or any props. He can just use it inside of his house.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of Rob
exciting.
Zombie's music, and I'm a fan of most of his movies. Not every movie he makes is a huge hit, but I love his passion for this stuff, and the fact that he's as big of a Munsters fan as he is. I'm expecting him to give it a good job. Give it a good
I liked his
chance
Devil's
on the big
Rejects.
screen.
His
Yeah.
Devil's Rejects was great, and so was House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yep. Did you see the third movie of that franchise?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he eventually made a third movie that he made like 10 years later or something like that. He finally went back. It's called Three from Hell.
Three from Hell.
Yeah.
And then what's the other one that the guy from Twisted Sister does? D. Snyder. Of course.
The D. Snyder movie, Strangeland?
Yes, he does Strangelands and stuff. And he was quite inspired by Rob Zombie to really start doing the horror movies. And then on XM and Sirius Radio, you may not realize, but he has a show called Fangoria Radio, based on the Fangoria magazine.
Oh, yeah?
That he co-hosts with a Scream Queen. And they just cover horror movies like House of a Thousand Corpses and Strangeland and stuff like that. So when I was a truck driver,
when you say Scream Queen, are you talking about Jamie Lee Curtis?
No, not Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm trying to remember who his co-host is on Fangoria Radio. But when I was a truck driver, I would listen to Fangoria Radio when it came on, and I'd love it because Dee Snider's such a great guy, and I was a Twisted Sister fan of the rock group, and I loved Strangeland, the movie, and I liked Rob Zombie's movies, and those are the kind of things that he likes to talk about. In fact, if I look it up real quick.
Actually a fan of Dee Snider before I was a fan of Twisted Sister, I think.
Fangoria Radio hosts. It's Dee Snider in this, but who else?
Yeah. I absolutely love Rob Zombie as an artist, and I love his stage shows and everything else. My one and only complaint I actually have about Rob Zombie, and this might seem trivial, but my one and only complaint is sometimes when he's performing on stage live, he gets too
it's Debbie Rochon.
energetic into the performance, and so he's like jumping a lot, and it's like messing up his singing. So he'll be jumping, and his singing will sound like, that
right.
And I mean, visually, it's a great. He is visually doing a great act. It just kind of interferes with the singing sometimes.
Yeah. He gets a little too into
But
it.
that's a small complaint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's
Debbie.
fair.
It's hard to give someone a hard time for getting too excited about what they're doing, though. You know.
Right. But Debbie
That's the
Rashawn.
one thing. It sounds like the fact that it's a passion project has me intrigued. The
Mhm.
Munsters isn't exactly in my wheelhouse either. The only character I recognize is Herman Munster, and even that's only because the actor also played Lucifer in Constantine, which I loved. That was
That's
him,
not.
right?
Nope.
No?
No. You're thinking of it, but no. You're the guy that played Lucifer in Constantine is the Russian actor that played the cosmonaut in what was it? The Core is who you're thinking of.
99% sure.
Because I know the actor that plays Herman Munster. He also played the guy that was trying to buy out the company in The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox. That's the guy from the Munsters.
Okay.
Fred Gwynn plays the
Fred Gwynn.
Munsters.
Fred Gwynn.
Okay.
Yeah. He is also in the original Pet Cemetery. But
Yes.
Okay,
But-
I was mistaken.
But yeah, you were
Wait.
mistaken. You're thinking of the Russian actor, which I can't think of his name, but he has played. He's played in a lot.
I was
of
going to say
things.
Fred Gwynn. Isn't Fred Gwynn the guy who played as the next door neighbor on Two Men Taylor, Home Improvement?
I'm not sure if that's
I
who
don't
played
know.
it or not, but a lot of people suspected that was him. But the voice was very similar anyway. But Fred Gwynn has been
I don't
in a few things, but no, he's not that. You're thinking of the guy, the cosmonaut from the Core, and
I wasn't thinking of him. I don't know what I was thinking about, but
that's the guy that played the
Right.
devil in Constantine.
and this is why I check out during the media section because I know less than nothing.
That's
Now,
that's the thing.
the actor who played the devil in Constantine, and you're talking the movie Constantine with Keanu Reeves, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That actor was the guy who played. He also was on. I think he plays as Vertigo in Arrow
Yes.
in the Berlanti-verse.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
He's
among
kind of a-
other things.
he has a scary performance, kind of a scary presence on
Yeah,
screen. You know?
Yeah, let's see here.
Yeah, I
In
love
fact,
that. I love that movie.
Yeah. There's rumors of a sequel being in the works.
For Constantine?
I don't know if they're true, but that's for the Keanu Reeves Constantine.
He said it. There is so.
I know he got a lot of crap because he didn't look like the comic book version, but that happens with almost every superhero protagonist.
Yeah, before 2008.
Yeah,
Until
but
Iron
I
Man.
thought
Before,
I thought he did a great job.
Well, so did I, but when I read mainstream criticism of the movie, the one thing that people seemed to get caught up on was the guy on the front of the movie poster didn't look like the guy on the front of the comic book.
Yeah.
It's Peter Stormare.
For peace and
Peter Stormare is the one you're thinking of.
Yeah.
He's been in Constantine and Armageddon, not the Core. Armageddon is the one where he was the cosmonaut, and he's been in Troll Hunters. He's been in American Gods.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in everything. He's voiced some Animaniacs characters. He was in a Fast and Furious video game. Castlevania.
Get this. The biggest criticism of the Fast and the Furious video game that's mentioned there is that you don't feel fast or furious in that game. They're like, how do you make a Fast and the Furious game where you feel like you're slow?
Right? That would be a thing. That would. He voiced Lord Dreg in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's done a lot of voiceover work. But
Yeah.
Here he is. It's Vertigo and Arrow. Yep, there he is. Yeah. He's been in a lot of things. He's in the Blacklist as one of the main nemesis of
Anyway.
yeah.
Anyway, we got
But we're getting ready to go into the media stuff now, so we're probably going to bid farewell to Greg
Yep.
because this
Yep.
isn't his forte, but that's fine. You can catch Greg next week is the third Wednesday, so you're going to be over at Holdfast Brewing Company. Is that correct? Or are you waiting
That's
to-
correct. Yeah, it's this coming Wednesday, so 6 days from now, I will be at Holdfast from about 5 o'clock until they kick me out, and I'll have a milk crate full of short and sweet games. Very little that would take more than half an hour, even including teaching the game. And Holdfast themselves will be hosting their puzzle night, so they provide 300-piece puzzles chosen at random by teams, and then teams race to see who can complete their puzzles fastest.
Excellent. Okay. And you can always go to Holdfast Brewing Company just to meet Greg as one of our representatives for Eclectic Endeavors. Let him know what you think of the show, if you've got any ideas that we can cover. You know, who you might want to see from the other Eclectic Endeavors people, because we're going to start bringing some of them on the Wednesdays that he's gone once we can start lining a few of them up. So it's a great place to go to check it out. If you're starting to go out in the COVID wilderness, check it out. Be safe. Watch it, especially
Always.
since there's been some massive increases in COVID cases since the mask law got lifted. So if I was you, I'd probably still wear a mask. But yeah, see him next week. And me and Lurch will be here next week running this show with Sans Greg, but we know and understand Greg will be over there. So see you next week, or see you in a couple weeks, Greg.
See ya then. I'll also be on tomorrow on my Twitch channel, Queen City Cardboard. I'll probably be doing some of the games from that Queer Games bundle that I talked about last week, because I bought the bundle the next day. So I have no idea what's going to happen, but it should be interesting.
Oh, that'll be exciting because those look like some interesting games. If I was into a bunch of little games like that, I probably would have bought the bundle too, if I hadn't already done my Kickstarter or whatever for the year. But I totally see where people might want to see that some of those played before they buy the bundle, and there's still a chance to buy the bundle, right?
Oh yeah, the sale is ongoing through July 4th, and the entire bundle is pay what you want, minimum $60. There's a low income option where you can pay like $20 for the bundle, but if at all possible, they're encouraging people naturally to pay what they can.
Right, because it's going
and
to
support the
charity.
creators.
It's going to
it's going directly. It's going 100% to the creators,
which is great. So,
who, as I understand, are all queer people, all people who identify on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. So
right, and more developers in all of the smaller subsets of the community need to be supported. So, especially like our LGBTQ plus community. So it's a great cause. Look like great little quirky games and tools. And so it'll be interesting if somebody wants to log in and watch you play one or three of them. That'll be interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen depending on how long they are. Yeah, could play 1, could play 3, could play 6 or 7. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll catch you then. Hopefully some of them will catch you tomorrow. And me and Lurch will catch you in 2 weeks from today.
Sounds like a plan.
And
Take
hopefully
care.
some people will see you at Old Fast next week. Have a good night, Greg.
Good night.
All right. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. We've only got, 13 minutes. We're probably going to go over a little bit because this was a busier week in media.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and we're going to save the creme de la creme for last, which is Loki. So we'll get to Loki probably last. But in the DC universe, Um, we had we had 3 updates this week, which was nice because last week we didn't have nothing. Hold on, let me switch to the two person mode here. Hold on there. This um, let's see. Hold on, I need to get it to where it's showing you. There we go. All right. I had to go to the two host version.
Gotcha.
Anyway, there's pretty good updates this week because we didn't have a bunch last week. However, this week, starting off with Legends of Tomorrow. Big part about Legends of Tomorrow happened at Constantine's mansion, as the little girl that got trapped in the hellscape and he rescued. Of course, she's now fully grown up and has to try to live in the regular world. She's living in Constantine's mansion, well, house, mansion, estate, whatever you want to call it, and
I think mansion counts.
Mansion, I think, counts, yeah. And she's trying to live. Unfortunately, she goes to apply for a job, and her social security number and everything says that she's still a little girl because it doesn't take into account the fact that she grew up in a hellscape where time moved differently. So she can't get a job because of that. She needs internet, but John won't get the internet working because he's so busy running around doing stuff and also dating Zoe that he won't.
I don't know if you caught this. But like the whole first bit of the show where it was showing, what's her name now? What's the girl's name?
I can't recall. That's why I was saying the little girl.
The demon girl. Anyway, the whole time it's showing her like struggling with the house, and every time Constantine shows up, he's in a different outfit. And every time in that outfit and whatever else is going on, he's in an outfit or whatever is going on with like Zari and stuff, is all directly references parts of the last 5 episodes. And so we're seeing what the demon girl has been doing during the time period of the last 5 episodes, because she hasn't been a part of the other episodes. She's been stuck in the house trying to figure, because she doesn't want to be a legend, and she's trying to live on her own there at Constantine's house. And he's too busy, being a rock star for the episode about music, and he's, dealing with with alien juice burger meat sauce from that weird episode.
So
Big Belly Burger or whatever.
Well, I think it's the precursor to Big Belly Burger. I think it's what becomes Big Belly Burger. Because, of course, that's the big burger chain in the Blantyverse. And then she's handling that. She's like, I need to wash my clothes. Where's the washer and dryer? It says, what do you mean? I use a spell. I don't use a washer and dryer. Yeah. Everything
I use a spell to clean my clothes.
Well, could you whip up a spell to do the internet? Yeah, sure. When I come back, forgets about it again. And she has no internet. She has no nothing. There's no food in the house because he hadn't left any money to go get any food. She's like struggling, and the neighbor sees her like all wet from she gets splashed by a puddle and everything, and thinks that for one, she's colored, which he automatically kind of upper crust racism just automatically assumed she was like the help or coming to sell something or whatever. And she's like, no, I live there. He's like, no, your type of people wouldn't live there.
Yeah.
So it's totally snobbish thing, which ties in later on because she finds a portrait. This isn't a portrait of Dorian Gray. This is a portrait of Aleister Crowley. For those who don't know, I mean, it's in the Marvel universe, they don't go into real detail about it, but in the metaphysical world supernatural pagan demonology world, Aleister Crowley is one of the most famous demonologists to have ever lived. He translated the Mad Arabs book, the Necronomicon. And so he's a big demonologist who was supposed to try to open the ninth gate in order to allow the horrors from beyond into our world. And so in the DC universe, Constantine trapped him in a painting, and he's up in the attic of the house. Because what happens is she goes up the attic to see if there's anything she could sell or whatever in the attic to make some money, to get some food and do some regular stuff to survive. I mean, she finds a nice Tiffany lamp, but she finds this painting, and the painting starts talking to her, and it's Aleister Crowley. And he offers to teach her magic to help her get by. And he's all playing the sympathetic ear. And that's like the main theme of this episode, is her learning from Crowley. But of course, and like I said, when we go into this time, this is all spoiler area. There's going to be spoilers. The only thing we're really not going to do spoilers with is Loki today, because it just dropped today. But everything else will have spoilers. So if you haven't seen this, you might want to tune out if you don't want to hear it. But I think it goes as no surprise that an evil person like Aleister Crowley tricks her.
I have to say, I'm really disappointed in this demon girl, because she worked her way up from an innocent girl trapped in hell to being a queen in hell, and then in the real world gets tricked as so easily into helping Crowley.
But it's two different settings, so she's not quite. Remember, in the real world, she's very naive. Yes, she knows the ins and outs of hell, but she don't know shit about the real world.
Yeah, I still don't buy it that she'd be that gullible about magic, about the use of magic, and someone getting her not understanding how electric bills work, or scam artists. I think she would get that too, but I don't know. Getting tricked about something on the web, things like that. But I don't think getting tricked by a magician is exclusive to Earthrealm. I feel like that's something that can happen in hell just the same. And it turned, to me, it really hurt her character to make her. She was this badass bitch in hell, and now she's just this, squabbling girl that is naive to anybody that she comes across.
Yeah, but it's the story. It's the story they wanted to tell, and so they took the liberties. But I can see where you have a little bit of some dissonance from that, because you would think that she'd have a
little more sense,
right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so he teaches her some spells, and the one spell he teaches her will allow Crowley to switch bodies with somebody else, and allowing him to come out and teach her more. And she ends up having him switch with Constantine. And at first she's okay with this and everything, because she can always switch him back by saying the spell again. But then he tricks her into making this powered amulet using the soul of somebody. Now, she can't use any of the souls that she has, because she saw some in her purse, because she goes for her purse when he says you need a soul to power it. She's like, oh, I've got some souls, because that's the currency in hell. So she's got that. That's like asking her for pocket change.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, this one's got to be a fresh one. And she's like, oh, I can't do that to somebody. And then it was like, kind of brings me in mind of Little Shop of Horrors, when the plant looks over at Steve Martin's character and then says, Rick Moranis says, "You sure looks like plant food to me." Like, some people deserve to die. And it was like, that guy was an asshole racist. So he kind of deserved it as far as she was concerned. So
Yeah.
she calls him and has him come over to look at the Tiffany lamp. And then she's going to take his soul, and he ends up making it to where he does get his soul sucked, and all of the legends show up, and they end up getting turned into different household items.
Candlestick, a fork.
Yeah, candlestick, fork, a roll of cheese, and Constantine is, of course, stuck in the portrait. And when she goes to try to put him back in the portrait, he's now got that necklace that they just got charged with the soul. So he's like immune to her putting him back in the portrait. You know. So now she gets bippity boppity booped into cartoon chick, freaking Disney princess version of herself.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious. And basically, that was the plot of this week's thing, and that's the thing that I think me and Lurch really like about Legends of Tomorrow. It's very quirky. It's very out of the box, funny, not taking itself too seriously kind of show. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, because we can't just handle just the Legends, we also go check in with Sarah. We don't
Sarah
see.
Lance, yeah.
We do not see what's his name, but Sarah has been captured by a bunch of Ava clones, and turns out the guy that runs the Ava clones is this. Basically, he's a human. Esh, kind of. He's a little bit different from human now, I think, but he was initially a human, and he created the original Ava clones, of which her Ava is one, in the far future, like the year 3000 or something.
Yeah, he was a bioengineer or something.
Right. And he wants to have Sarah, the ultimate warrior in his mind, train his Ava clones and help him take over the world, kind of thing. And he thinks that Sarah should be all for this. And Sarah is, of course, not all for this. And then Sarah falls for the stupid fake out, which I saw coming a mile freaking away. When he's like, look, I got you the power supply. Here, let's go. Yeah. And Sarah's like, yeah. In this case, it's Sarah wanting to believe that the Ava clones can be their own people.
Yes. See, this one, I saw that one coming a mile away, but at least I could buy that one because the thing that tricks her has her would-be fiance's face,
Right. And so
she's not thinking straight because of that.
She has a belief because her Ava could break apart and become an individual that any of the Ava clones can.
Yeah.
But not all of them are as mature as her Ava clone because, among other things, her Ava clone grew up not knowing she was a clone. So.
Yep.
Anyway, they go through that. She does get cured of the poison because he cures her.
Yeah.
And he basically, he's tricking her because he needs to get to her ship, which is, of course, the ship that was going to kidnap all the aliens, because he wanted to get to his DNA samples. Well, all the aliens, she says, ha, 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 I dumped all the aliens, so you don't have it. But he says, aha, but that's just it. Pulls out this panel and says, that's why you have backups. And there's all these DNA samples in test tubes, because each of the chambers that held an alien also took a sample of their DNA. And so he has all these DNAs to use in his genetic research, which is really what he wanted out of her. One of the things he wanted out of her. He also wanted. Yeah,
he also wants her to. Yeah, he wants her to train his army.
He wants her to be his partner in crime and kind of his queen. But anyway, we don't, like I say, we don't see Gary at all in this episode. No. So Gary's kind of out in the nether. Hopefully we'll catch up with him next week. But that's kind of what's happening with Sarah. And that's pretty much it. Of course, at the end of the episode, Sarah ends up getting away. and Demon Girl ends up capturing Crawley back in the painting because they use a spell that Demon Girl's mother had developed that basically sucked the magic out of everybody and everything in the area, which coincidentally sucked the magic out of John Constantine too. So now John has to start from the beginning and learn all of his magic all over again.
Yeah. Which, that is kind of odd that he has to... He should still know how to do magic. I'm just thinking he has to do something to get the magical energy to do it or something. I don't know.
And they might do that in the later episodes because they're not going to keep him powerless for very long.
Yeah.
Because they're going to want John Constantine to have his power. Anyway, so that's really what's going on with the Legends. Next up, I know I'm going to get to Superman and Lois, but first we'll stop by in Flashville.
Yeah.
Flash was the end of an era this week because it is the last episode of Cisco Ramon. As they talked about in a couple of the previous episodes, him and his girlfriend talked about leaving Star City. And they actually she got a gallery opening in Florida, Miami, and he got a job working for Argus. And he's taken over a leadership position in Argus, which, if you remember from the Psych episode, his greatest fear was still being stuck at Star Lab and still just being the boy genius at Star Lab and never moving forward and never advancing and never growing up. And so that's his biggest fear, and so that's what he wants to do, is he wants to spread his wings and go to Argus. So they start the episode by them telling their friends he's going. Now, he's expecting Tearfelt, oh, please don't go, we're going to miss you, and all this stuff, which, is understandable. But his friends are made of better stuff than that, and they're like, you know what? We're not going to make a big deal of this. We're not going to try to hold him back. We're going to pretend it's all okay. Unfortunately, pretending it's all okay hurts his feelings because he's like, they can't wait to get rid of me. What's wrong with this?
Yeah, I know.
And he should know better.
They're all like that. They're like, that's great. We'll help you back.
And they're actually, and then he speed packs for the guy, and things, and that's making him feel like 2 inches tall. And in actuality, it's ripping Barry apart inside, and it's ripping Iris apart. And Caitlin, oh my God, is really a basket case inside, But they're thinking, this is Cisco. And they can't hold their friend back.
Yeah. The episode was called Goodbye Vibrations.
Yeah, because he's now Mecha Vibe. Now, I don't know when he changed from Vibe to Mecha Vibe.
He took a Vibe cure a while back.
I know he took a Vibe cure. But I don't remember him ever calling himself Mecha Vibe until this episode. I thought he was still just Vibe. I think it happened. But anyway... they end up going against another, was it Rainbow Warrior, Rainbow Crusader, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Can't remember what the name of but it was 2.0 version. But this one was actually kind of a goody two-shoes Robin Hood type of thing. Because she's robbing, well, she's not even robbing. She's convincing people to give her money and jewels and stuff. And she's got her power, uses light waves to evoke euphoria, where the previous Rainbow Raider used light waves to evoke anger. Hers are invoking euphoria, and they hit Cisco with it. And Cisco's in total la la land. I mean, he is so out of it. And then Barry gets hit, and they got Barry freaking breakdancing. But she's stealing all this money.
Super speedster breakdancing.
Yes, because he sped watched 18 hours of breakdancing videos to learn how to breakdance.
Yeah.
And then she steals this stealth dirigible because she's going to dump all this money and jewels that she's stolen on the crowd to help make their lives better. Unfortunately, she didn't think this through because she was going to dump these money and jewels and stuff right after a big football game to a football crowd, which is going to cause the biggest bloodthirsty riot in the frickin' world. I mean, it's
They
like
also mentioned how they figured out what her ambition was because they found,
she was
records they were able to trace where she's been like buying people's medical debts and then forgiving it.
Well, she was a collection agent.
Yeah.
All the big collections she went out on, she found out there were big medical debts. So instead of collecting, she paid off their debts. So they're like, oh, wait a minute. She's too goody two-shoes. What's up with this? So they figure out what she's going to do with the dirigible that has the stealth ability and everything. So they get on the dirigible and they stop her. And Vibe has to take apart part of his suit in order to fix the thing after they stop her power with a multi-spectrum light beam from Allegra. Because, of course, Allegra's got light energy powers, too. First, they tried to use the item they used on the original Rainbow Raider, but it didn't work because that focused on a single color of the visual spectrum, the red for anger, where her power kind of works on all the colors because it's all about rainbows.
And it makes her 7 times stronger.
Right, which burned out the device they used. But Allegra's power is not limited by that, and so she was able to stop the power. And Flash tells her, look, I'm going to recommend that for your, instead of like them putting away for your public service, you go to work for the mayor's new economic help initiative. And she's like, you'd do that for me? He says, yeah, you're a nice person, You're just a little misguided. Because the Flash is a nice guy, too.
Yep.
And they end up, then they finally admit to Cisco after they've saved the day. Cisco pretty much saved the day. And I was like, there's no word to express how great Cisco is. It's just, yes, there is, Caitlin says. You're the bomb. And then they admit that they were holding it in and they were trying to protect him from their feelings of being abandoned and stuff because they didn't want to hold him back. So then they do a double going away party. So at the Citizen, there's a going away party with the girls. Most of the girls. Basically, the Citizen girls. So Allegra,
plus
the girlfriend, Iris, and what's her name? Joe's wife.
Yeah.
Which I can't think
there
of
was
the
4
name.
girls at the girls' party.
4 girls
Joe's
at the girls'
wife.
party. And they take a selfie. Now, we do get a hint of something that Joe's wife is up to, which is, I think, leading into the next big bad. But we haven't quite figured it all out yet. And then we are at the loft. Now, Chester doesn't go because Chester ends up is going to take over for Cisco. And Cisco tells him that he has his own lab now. So he gets so excited that he's like, yeah, you're going to bail on me, huh? So you can inventory your new lab. He says, uh-huh. So he goes, and he goes and inventories his lab. But that's okay because they really kind of need the OG kind of final going away. And the final going away is really Caitlin, Barry, Joe, and Cisco. And they don't need anybody else. And they come in. And they have this nice party, and then Cisco's saying, "I'm going to miss not having my Super Express Speedster takeout service. Where like you want waffles from Belgium, you go to Belgium to get the waffles and shit." So he's like, "What am I going to do now?" And Kane's like, "Well, like everybody else, you're just going to call an order, like a normie."
Yeah.
Not that he couldn't. Not that he couldn't from a completely different city. Still call Barry and say, "Barry, can you swing by Paris and pick me up some crepes, and Barry
Yeah.
wouldn't do it. You know.
No, I have to wonder, does the wind not cause problems with the food?
If you remember, the Flash, like a lot of other speedsters in the DC universe, part of the Speed Force creates like a
Barrier.
inertia field around them, so they don't feel the wind necessarily.
Yeah.
They don't feel the friction. It's a small, and it extends to anything they're carrying. So, as in the beginning of his career as the Flash, he didn't have control of that, and that's why he kept running through his outfits and shit until Cisco made him an outfit. But as he got better and better with the Speed Force, that inertia field grew a little bit further and further out, and his ability to expand it so that he could carry people along with him grew. Because they had to do that, because otherwise he could never carry another person without burning them out with friction burns.
Yeah.
So, not to mention, actually moving at the speeds that Barry moves could possibly set fire to the environment, to the actual atmosphere of the Earth from pure friction, because of the amount of oxygen content in the atmosphere of the Earth.
Yeah.
If moving that fast could literally set fire to it. So
anyway, this was a very lighthearted episode.
Very
the
much
villain was trying to help people.
And it's very much touching about the whole Cisco's leaving thing, which I was torn up because Cisco to me is part of the team. And I can't think of Star Labs without Cisco. Chester's nice and all, but he's not Cisco Ramon.
Yeah. And I read that the way they did this episode was he insisted that it be a lighthearted episode.
Yeah.
He asked that. He's like, I don't want this to be like a really sad, sad episode. I'd like to leave on a happy note, and I would like the episode overall be lighthearted. And so they did what they could to keep everything on the lighter side of things.
Plus, he wanted to exit in a way that he could always come back for a cameo.
Yeah.
Unlike other people who exit by being killed off or absorbed into a different multiverse or whatever, Cisco wanted the freedom to come back. Like, for instance, I believe that when they finally decide to do the finale episode of The Flash, whenever that is, because right now The Flash is still being renewed for new seasons.
Good.
But whenever they do the finale for The Flash, I could see Cisco coming back. I could see Kid Flash coming back. I could see a few of the other ones coming back. Even the Professor could come back. Because...
Wells?
Yeah, Wells. Even Professor Wells could come back. Even though they said he's pretty much gone from the show and he's not going to do any more cameos. Yeah. That doesn't mean he's not going to cameo in the finale. In the finale, they usually try to pull all the stops back. I wouldn't be surprised if Oliver Queen came in somehow in a cameo for the finale. You know, but because that's what finales are about. I mean, shoot. Felicity said she was not going to come back for the last season, period. And she came back for a slight cameo in the last episode of Arrow. So she went ahead and broke what she said. Now, on to Superman and Lois. And we're already like 17 minutes over time. And we haven't even touched Loki yet.
Man. My leg hurts.
Well, Superman and Lois, okay. If you remember from the last episode, Superman had breathed in a whole bunch of this engineered kryptonite gas that wasn't true kryptonite. It was an artificial kryptonite gas. But it turned out to be a synthetic biological agent. Now, not a lot of us even picked up on that whole biological thing. I know I skipped it. But this episode, Jordan has become infected by the kryptonite.
Yeah.
And
Jordan's infected by it, and also Superman still is infected by it too. They're both,
because
sick.
Superman goes to stop a robbery in Mexico, at a bank robbery, and he gets hit by a double-barrel shotgun, and it actually left bruises on him.
Yeah.
And Lois is like, "Wait a minute, you don't bruise."
Yeah.
And it turned out,
especially not by bullets.
Not by bullets, no. Were they kryptonite? Was the first thing out of her mouth. And he's like, "No, they were regular bullets." It was like from a double-barreled shotgun, but, the regular bullets pinged off like normal, but the double-barrel shotgun bullets, those shells left bruises and actually knocked him down for a few, which is just not Soups, And it comes out that he's still under lingering effect from the kryptonite biological agent. They still haven't keyed into the biological fact until they find out that Jordan is also infected, which means it's like a virus and he gave it to his son. And how Jordan's affected is he's talking to Lana's daughter, which for the life of me, I can never remember her name.
They're actually practicing for a talent show that they're doing later that night.
Yeah, her talent show, because he's going to play the piano for her, because he came in and rescued her when her dad didn't show up. And then he turns and he sneezes, and his hand is coated with ice. And then he sneezes again, and so he ditches out of there, and she feels ghosted. But he comes home and, finds out that the infection has basically given him a super cold, and the way his lungs are reacting just suddenly gave him frost breath. Now, a little known fact about Superman. One of the abilities that Superman has that is not highly publicized is the ability to come up with new abilities. That is an actual power in Superman's lexicon. If he needs a new ability, he can spontaneously create a new superpower. That's a little known part of the Superman mythology. But he does it a couple of times throughout the comic books. And that's why, he can shoot beams from his finger in some of the old Superman movies, but he never did it in the comic books, because he can basically come up with a power from on. He came up with his frost breath when he needed frost breath. He came up with heat vision when he needed heat vision. He didn't necessarily start with any of them. He started with just the ability to run, jump, and be super strong. Those were his base power set. And being nigh on invulnerable. That was his base power set. Everything else he's basically created as he's gone along, and that's a Kryptonian thing. Just like another thing the Kryptonians have that hasn't come into this show yet, but Kryptonians can be telekinetic, which is fine because Superboy uses telekinesis later on. As a clone of Kal-El, he has to get it from somewhere. So telekinesis is also a Kryptonian power. But anyway, that's a divergence. The frost breath is a power that he created. And so, as a reaction to the illness, the super expulsion of air that a cough is causing as fluid fills up his lungs is translated into, now Jordan has frost breath, which he never had before. And he ends up having to go to the Fortress of... First, they contact Grandpa, and Grandpa's people don't have any cure. They had no idea. It still hadn't even been tested in the field yet. And Lois basically says, after this, you're cut off. Because you know what? I thought at least when I finally got a family, you would put me in the family first. But you still put that stupid job first, and you put my kid in danger. And she wasn't having nothing of it. She was not having any of it after that.
No.
And so she said, after this is solved, I don't want to ever see you again. You're cut off. But then he redeems himself at the end of the episode. But while waiting, Clark gets tired of waiting, and Jordan's getting worse and worse. So Clark flies Jordan.
He accidentally sneezes He accidentally sneezes on the lamp and freezes it solid.
Yeah. And Clark is just not putting up with it any longer. He's not waiting. He flies into the Fortress of Solitude, talks to the AI of the Fortress. Fortress tells him that we're going to basically have to extract the kryptonite from him, just like we've extracted it from you in the past, because he's had kryptonite infection and sickness has happened to Superman in the past. And basically, you have to burn it out of the body with basically concentrated heat vision beams coming from the fortress itself. And it hurts like hell. And so while Clark holds his hand and like holds on to his son, they burn out the kryptonite from Jordan's body. Now, Lana's daughter has to go on stage, and she gets up there, and she's like, I don't know if I can do that. I can't do this because he's not there to play the piano and be her moral support. But then, surprises, surprises, her dad actually gets up with the guitar like he was originally supposed to in the beginning before Jordan jumped in and played the guitar, which allowed her to do her set. And she was, again, the most amazing singer at the talent show.
Yeah.
I mean, the Asian girl wasn't bad. This time, the only other person we heard wasn't bad. But when they were doing the auditions, they all sucked. Except for her. But what's funny is the Asian girl that was up there singing, her mother was one of the ones that Morgan Edge inducted into his leadership program. And during her particular performance, she got up and left the auditorium, which is absolutely nothing like her. She dotes on her daughter. Ain't no way she's leaving during her daughter's performance as far as Lana's concerned. And Lana's husband goes after her, says, here, let me talk to her, and runs after her. Later on, we find out that Edge has activated several of his subjects, and they go after Lana. I mean, not Lana, after Lois. And they happen to go after Jonathan, too, because Jonathan's there with Lois. And that's when Grandpa comes in and kind of saves the day. He comes in with the kryptonite weapons and lets loose the kryptonite gas, which weakens them, allowing Lois and Jonathan to get away. And Jonathan's like, to the barn. And they go to the barn and they find out that Jonathan has hidden some of the weapons from John Henry Irons' camper underneath the floorboard of the barn, which he wasn't supposed to do, but now I think they're a little bit grateful because he uses like a sonic energy weapon, pulse weapon.
I think it was a heat-based weapon. Either way,
I think they specifically said sonic, but I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. We just know it was.
I think the word you said was solar.
Could have been solar. I don't know, though, because Kryptonians are powered by solar, so I don't know. But he uses it to defend them a little bit. And then, of course, Clark comes back and runs them off at the end. But Lana's husband shows up and says, I don't understand what's going on here. Then his eyes light up, too, because we find out that he's been replaced with a Kryptonian soul, I guess is the closest thing we're going to have to call them. They've each been possessed by Kryptonian consciousness. Yeah, but they have to be activated. When they're not activated, they're normal themselves, so they don't necessarily realize that they're Kryptonians.
Mostly normal. They're still like
they're improved. They're improved, but they still have their own personality. That way, they can blend in. Because it aids in the blending. And we find out, and this is the big spoiler of the episode, is at the end, Superman gets called by Lois's caller device, which we find out Morgan Edge has.
Yeah, one of the guys stole it. People attacking him stole it. Yeah,
pocketed it, and so Superman goes to confront Morgan Edge, and we find out that Morgan Edge is actually a Kryptonian, not a Kryptonian consciousness, he's actually Kryptonian because he tells him he got his powers when he got to Earth, just like you did.
Yeah.
And that's where they end the episode. So on that cliffhanger, we know Morgan Edge, and he's about to tell us who he is. The only thing we do here is he calls Kal-El brother. We don't get his actual name, but he calls Kal-El brother. So we know that he's of the House of El, or we assume, unless brothers just means brother Kryptonian, but I'm assuming it means House of El.
Well, he had a Kryptonian crest on his chest that wasn't the House of El crest.
Right. But it could have been a bastardization of the El crest. Because he could have been an outcast. Because if his parent had outcasted him, which is what I figure is going to end up being a backstory, which is why we never heard of Superman having a brother.
Yeah.
That it's going to be because his dad ostracized him for some reason, and he probably changed his crest. That's at least what I'm anticipating. Now, I don't want to go into Lois and Superman anymore because we were already over in time by half an hour, and we haven't even touched on Loki. Now, we're barely going to touch on Loki this week because it had premiered today, very first episode. Luckily, there wasn't a lot of spoiler material in this episode. And the one thing we're not going to mention, it's that which should not be named. So we're not going to do that. Next week, we'll talk about it. This week, we're not going to. They did what they should have done, and that's great. I really respect them for that. They went quirky, which with Loki is definitely the way to go. They introduced us to the players. We met Agent Mobius. We met the TVA. We saw a highlight reel of some of Loki's greatest hits, including some stuff that wasn't in the movies. So there was at least one thing where he hijacked a plane for money and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
He was DB Cooper. We got to see that scene.
Yeah. So they had that scene made for and it was kind of one of them that they showed in the commercials. But, if you're like me watching the commercial, I thought that was after he was a TVA agent. But it turns out to be a flashback. There was a nice little, and I love this part, is when he first comes in and he takes a number, like he's at some kind of DMV or delicatessen or something. And then they play a little cartoon to introduce him to the timekeepers and the TVA. And it's got a little dancing clock that's just dancing around, and it's like, oh my God, this is as cheesy as it could possibly be. Yeah. It's great.
It's like a 1940s cartoon on the wall that he's watching. And he's explaining who the TVA is.
And it's funny because he's told to take a number, and they're really insistent that he take a number and get in line. Yeah. And there's only one other guy there.
Yeah. And they're like, take a number. And he was like, fine.
Like, there's only two of us here.
And he just kind of casually sticks it in his pocket. But then as he's like going along, the other guy that's in line, after he watches the cartoon, the other guy that's at the front is being yelled at by the other guy going, where's your ticket? He's like, look, there's no one else here. Why do you care? It's like, I don't know where my ticket is. I didn't get a ticket. I asked him for a ticket.
And then they just like, it's
like, final warning, where's your ticket? I don't have one. And they hit him with a thing, and he seems to just evaporate.
Disintegrate.
And then Loki was just like, oh, shit.
Where did
he's like patting all of his pockets.
And then he holds it up like the Holy Grail.
Got my ticket, because they ask him, where's your ticket? I got it right here.
Ticket, got my ticket. Ticket.
My ticket.
Don't kill me, ticket. Because if there's one thing that Loki's good at, it's fucking survival.
Yeah.
And
dude, I like how they get to the part where they ask him if he knows what was going on. He's like, yeah. Apparently, the Avengers did some sort of time travel to stop me because obviously, inevitably, I won and became the ruler of Earth, and the Avengers came back in time to stop me. Why do you think that? Well, I can always. He's like, it's not hard to smell the colognes of two different Tony Starks.
Yeah. And then when he's on trial, he tries to redirect all of the blame on the Avengers. Says, no, I didn't break the time stream. The Avengers did. They went back in time and created a. And they was like, no, that was supposed to happen. What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
that
were
was
supposed to come back in time. What wasn't supposed to happen is you stealing the Tesseract when they did.
He's like, what the? Who decides this? The timekeepers. So because 3 space lizards say something's okay, it's okay. Let me talk to him, God to God.
Yeah.
And they hit him with this collar that allows him to do what's called a rewind. But it only rewinds them. So, like, for instance, when he's in Owen Wilson's Agent Mobius's office, and he's sitting on a chair and it gets rewinded back and the chair had been thrown, the chair's not there anymore, so he falls to the ground. He says, sorry, this affects only you, not the furniture. When he does the rewind. Now, one thing that's really cool is Mobius gets called away for a minute because there's been another incident. Because what's happening is some of the agents of the TVA are being killed. And they want to get Loki to help them find out what's going on. And that's all I'm going to really say about that, because anything more will reveal the big spoiler. But while he's consulting in the hallway about that, Loki manages to get away, slip out of the room, go over to the mail clerk guy that they'd given the Tesseract to get the Tesseract back. And in the drawer where the Tesseract was is like freaking Infinity Stones. He's like, what are those Infinity? He says, oh yeah, we get a lot of those here. A lot of the guys use them as paperweights. What the what?
Yeah, they got like a few of them. They got like 4 time stones that are just sitting there in the drawer.
Yeah, we get a lot of those. We started using them as paperweights. Huh? The most powerful devices in the universe, and you're using them as fucking paperweights? Oh yeah, and magic doesn't work in the TVA. And he manages to get his collar off and put it on the one enforcement agent that just can't stand him. And so he takes sadistic joy, because nobody takes sadistic joy like Loki, in using the rewind function on that collar to totally torture her.
Yeah.
And
I like after he realizes that to them, the Infinity Stones are just, junk to sit around, pretty jewelry looking things. He's like looking around. He's like, is this the ultimate power?
Right. Now he's intrigued. And so he goes back to Owen Wilson's office, and he watches the rest of his file and sees where he dies by Thanos in Infinity. Because in Avengers Infinity Wars is when he dies. Thanos says, and there'll be none of these weird resurrections this time. And he sees that scene, and then after that it goes into file. So there is no resurrection. And Loki has always managed to get out of everything and resurrect. You don't permanently kill Loki. And so Loki's like, I can't go back to my timeline, can I? Because it hits him hard. There's a couple things that hit him hard. First off, the death of both his father and mother in Asgard, not his blood father and mother, but the ones that raised him, actually hits him, because Loki has a heart. It's buried there, but he does have a heart. And he gets touched by the scenes in the future when Thor actually says, I thought we'd be adventuring together the rest of our lives. And, when he saves Thor's life and Thor saves him and all these, he gets touched by these, and you never expect Loki to be moved, but he is. And then he admits to Owen Wilson that, no, I don't like killing people and stuff. It's just part of the illusion, part of the being the god of mischief. And And Owen Wilson's like, that's not what I see as mischievous, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, I like he's like all this killing doesn't look very mischievous to me. It just looks like murder.
Right? And I think we'll end, unless Lurch has something else to add, I think we'll mostly end there because going any further, we'll get into the one real spoiler of the episode. But we're going to talk about that for sure next week.
Yeah.
I will say, without saying what the spoiler is, it is one of the most hotly talked about theories on the internet. And I'll
Yeah.
leave it at that. Now, you can catch us here every week from 8 to 10 is when we're supposed to end, not 10:30, 10:45. But sometimes when new movies or new shows come out, we do go over, specifically me and Philip go over, because this last part of the show is our passion.
Hmm.
But we talk about anything in the nerdosphere. We're with Eclectic Endeavors, which is a group basically of a bunch of nerds in all the different genres of nerddom who have come together to put on a convention, a picnic, and to help forward the educational side of the nerdy hobbies. And that's everything from voiceover and theater work, stand-up comedy, costume design, prop design, comic book artists, role-playing games, video games, board games and card games, live action role-playing games and Amped Guard and stuff like that. LARPing. All these different things come together. We've got people doing crafts. We've got people putting on Kickstarters. We talk to professionals in the movie and animation industry. We've had guests at our convention that have included authors and game designers and voiceover actresses and actors. And the whole thing is dedicated to forwarding this education aspect of the nerdy hobbies. I mean, for those who remember Dungeons and Dragons and stuff in the older days when it first came out, it was the thinking man's game. And it still is kind of considered the thinking man's pastime to be a nerd. But there's nerds of all varieties out there now. There's nerdy jocks and there's nerdy cheerleaders and there's nerds everywhere because there is no stereotype that just fits. Nobody is a cookie cutter person.
Yeah.
And we are the most inclusive group that I know. We try to include everybody. We have a large subset of our community. They're not even a subset. They're just part of the community that are in the LGBTQ sub identifiers. We have, women. We have men. We have young and old. We have professional white collar and blue collar. We got people of all different races and everything, and we accept every person for who and what they are unequivocally as best as we can. I mean, there's still some vestiges out there, and we're trying our hardest to get rid of those last little vestiges of discrimination. But for the most part, we try not to gatekeep. We try to let everybody in and enjoy each other's company and try to stay away from a lot of that toxic behavior because that's really what we want to forward. And that's what Eclectic Endeavors is for. We're part of the Springfield Regional Art Council, which is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization. My actual Twitch channel is also dedicated to Extra Life, which is also another charity through the Children's Miracle Network that helps kids with long-term hospital stay kind of conditions. Plus, each of us do different kinds of volunteer work at different times for things as well. I am our cross promotions director, which means I go out and spread the word about our convention and our activities to other like-minded nerds, like by representing us at other conventions when they have them, or going into schools or libraries and doing demonstrations, or arranging for other members of our community to do that same thing. And Phil here is our chairman this year, but in past years has also been director of electronic gaming. He is probably our biggest authority in town when it comes to consoles. He's got more consoles in his house than some old school arcades. Uh, he's got more gaming cartridges than a GameStop. Let me tell you, I've seen it. He's got a huge collection. He's got big screen TV set up all over his house with different game consoles hooked up on him. So at any time in his house, you could be playing several different games at the same time. Because he could have a party and everybody be playing different games. I'm telling you, it's no joke. So join us here every week. We're also, of course, normally joined by Greg, who left. He leaves at about the media part, and every third Wednesday of the month, he's at Holdfast Brewing Company. But Greg is our director of tabletop gaming. You can find me at this channel, Gamers Suits channel on Twitch. I typically stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Usually I do stuff like old school RuneScape, but I have been adding Final Fantasy 14 and EverQuest to that. And also when Fractured, a new MMO, is in its alpha testing phase, and then later when it goes into beta testing, I'll be doing that as well on stream, so you can see that new game while it's in development. But I do that 3 days a week, basically overnight, because a lot of my viewers are in Australia and New Zealand. But this show is for our local community. Now, Lurch can be found over at Left Claw Studios, where they do a lot of console and Steam gaming.
Yep.
And him and his buddy Angel.
My friend Angel and I do the channel together. I've been running a lot of Mass Effect lately. I just got to Mass Effect 3 this week. And so I'm going to be streaming Mass Effect 3 tomorrow night. And then this weekend, I'm planning on streaming some Ratchet and Clank, a Rift Apart. Okay. The new Ratchet and Clank for PS5. I'm planning on playing some of that this weekend on stream as well.
I saw one of the commercials of that earlier today. That looks really hot.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks gorgeous. I've never played a Ratchet and Clank game, so
Ratchet and Clank's not in my wheelhouse either.
Yeah.
Even though I love those kinds of games, just Ratchet and Clank just not one of them I happened to pick up.
Yeah. It became really big. Like, originally, the franchise became really big in a time period where I wasn't interested in the cute mascot stuff anymore. It missed me by just a few years. But this new one, everything I've seen on it just looks incredible. And I have to give it a try, right?
At the time that it was big, I was playing Jackson Daxter and Spyro a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't play Spyro, and I didn't play Jak and Daxter. I played a lot of Crash Bandicoot, but that was a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that was a bit earlier, because I played a lot of Crash Bandicoot and Banjo-Kazooie, which were earlier.
I didn't do Banjo-Kazooie.
Well, and Spyro started earlier, too.
Yeah, Spyro started in the 90s, along with Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think around 2000, 2001 is when I kind of dropped out of the cutesy mascot stuff. And so, like, I did the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games, but didn't play the other ones after that, which weren't made by Naughty Dog anyway. Right. And I didn't happen to get into Spyro. You know, I did do. I'm trying to think. Like, I did a lot of the.
I liked Kirby.
Tekken, some Metal Gear Solids, and.
I like Mario.
I guess I got to a phase where I wanted more mature content at that age.
Yeah, or if you did want something lighthearted, you went for something you already were familiar with, like a Mario or Kirby.
Yeah.
Or Sonic.
Honestly, yeah, I did still do Sonic, I guess. There was a period of time where I didn't do Mario for a few years. So
That's hard. That's hard to believe.
I skipped Mario Sunshine, and I skipped Super Mario 64.
I played 64. I never even heard of Mario Sunshine.
That was the GameCube one. Now, okay, to be fair, I skipped Mario 64 not because not because it was Mario, but because I had to choose between PlayStation and N64, and I went with the PlayStation because I was kind of attracted to the disc-based format for video games, and so I was on the PlayStation and stuff. I got an N64 a little bit later, and played a lot of GoldenEye and some Pokemon Stadium on it, but I didn't get back and go do the Mario game at that point. But I have played it more recently. I streamed my full run of Mario 64 on my Switch not long ago.
One of the only shooters I ever played was GoldenEye. So yeah, and I played that on the 64. Okay. Anyway, and then just to remind people, talked about mine and talked about Lurch's channel. Also, go over to Queen City Cardboard and catch Greg. Like he said, tomorrow he'll be playing from the Queer Bundle. Some of the games in the Queer Bundle, which is a bundle we talked about last week, where all the producers of the games are in the LGBTQ plus community, and all the money from the bundle gets split among the various producers. So to help support our minority producers that often kind of struggle because people don't always give them a fair shake, judging them by who they are and who they portray themselves as instead of judging them by the product they put on the market. And I think people need to judge by the product they do, and be judged by the work you do when it's the work that's being judged. That's just kind of how it should be. Anyway, we'll catch everybody next week right here. It'll be just me and Philip next week. I'll be back in a few hours to play one of my games on my stream. Maybe. Now, I was up most of the day because it's my girlfriend's son's birthday, and I had to make a carrot cheesecake today instead of taking my normal nap. So I'm going to go try to take a nap now.
Go get some sleep, Doc.
And then I may or may not make it back to stream tonight. If I don't, it's because I'm just not feeling up to it. But we will catch everybody next week with even more in, of course, the Berlantiverse, because that's one of our passions. More about Loki, because I can't wait to see this show progress.
Yeah.
And we're building to some other stuff that's getting ready to come out. Space Jams comes out on July 16th. Few others. Anyway, I'm not going to go into it all now. But we'll catch you guys later. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. We only got like 2 people viewing in the channel. It's probably me and Philip. So I'm going to just go ahead and not forward it to any other channel. And we'll be done. And then sometime in the next couple of days, it'll be moved over to my YouTube channel in the Game Time folder or playlist. So have a good night, everybody. May all your rolls be 20. And just remember your cheat codes when you go in to play those games.
Don't forget that Konami code. Bye-bye.
And finish him. Fatality. Fade to black.